Chapter 451 Gan Ning in a state of battle. When Huang Gari and the three of them rushed over, they happened to see Ju Tai beheading a Sun family soldier with a knife, and the three of them were shocked, holding a weapon to hold Ju Tai, who looked like he was going to kill another soldier. What are you going to do? Three generals. Ju Tai looked annoyed after being held by Huang Gari and the three of them, but he tried his best to suppress the anger in his chest. Ju Yuping, I still want to ask you what you are doing, how to kill my soldiers. Although Cheng Pu was questioning, his hands were also a little loose. After all, with Ju Tai's strength, if it was really explosive, it would be difficult for the three of them to stop it, and now that Ju Tai has not launched an attack, then there must be a reason for this. Don't the three generals know what they did? Seeing that the three of them were puzzled, Ju Tai pulled back the big knife and told the three of them what happened at this moment. We are here to recover these places, not to destroy them. The Lord clearly said that he did not commit any crime, only killed the Lu family, and my subordinates are all such villains. How can we make the people submit? Ju Tai's words were called a reasonable and well-founded. Cheng Pu's momentum eased, and he also understood that Ju Tai was for the military discipline of the Sun family, and immediately had no words. Listen well, those who dare to take the people of Lujiang without permission when they enter the city, kill without mercy. Oh, I'm going. I forgot even the simplest way in a hurry. Ju Tai saw Huang Gari's actions, and his face suddenly became embarrassed. Ha ha ha, Yuping is fine, you are also for our military discipline. Sometimes people are like this, they don't turn around. Han Dang patted Ju Tai on the shoulder and said, we are rebels, how can we do bad things? You say yes, turn around and let people compensate the people who have suffered losses. It should be. Cheng Pu nodded and said, report. Lujiang City has been conquered. A herald rushed in and reported to Sun Ce. Okay. Sun Ce was overjoyed to shoot a few cases. What about the four guys from the Lu family? General Huang shot Lu Kang with an arrow, and Lu Kang and Lu Jun fled the city wall in advance. Then when we went to chase the Lu family caught fire, and now the Lu family fire has been extinguished, but those files and books have all turned to ashes. The herald replied with his head down. What about the four members of the Lu family? Sun Ce said dissatisfiedly. Already in the Lu family, along with dozens of family generals and retainers who are desperately guarding the Lu family. The herald replied. Dead. Sun Ce raised his voice. Then he waved his hand. Forget it, since you are dead. Then find a place to bury it. Let General Cheng and the others reorganize the team and reward the soldiers. Ha, Gong Jin is still you powerful. Just know that you have a way. After Sun Ce saw the herald leave, he turned around and smiled at Ju Yu. I'm afraid none of the Lu family is dead. At this time, the big tent was opened again, and then Pang Tong poked in. What did you say? Sun Ce turned his head and saw that it was Pang Tong. Aren't you going to escort grain and grass? Why did you come back so soon? Come back and inform you of something, just in time to hear it. Pang Tong's hippie smile said, continue talking about the Lu family, none of them may be dead. Bofu, Shi Yuan is right. I'm afraid these are stand-ins that have been prepared for a long time, and those retainers who died in battle are also dead soldiers. There should be a secret passage where the Lu family lives. Ju Yu sighed and said. When Sun Ce came to the Lu family's house where half of it was burned, Ju Tai relied on his unique ears and eyes to find the secret passage leading directly to the west of the city in the middle hall, a place that no one else expected at all, and then including Ju Yu thought that the Lu family ran out of the city from the secret passage in the middle hall, and only Ju Tai, who watched the Lu family leave from a distance, knew that the Lu family was going to the south gate. This is fine, the Lu family, I don't owe you anything anymore. The next time we meet, if you and I are enemies, I will definitely not show mercy. Ju Tai silently thought that he was a loyal person, and he was also a loyal person, so he made such a choice at such a time. Not long ago, Chen Shi and his party had just arrived at Chaohu Lake, and at this time, the wharf of the Lu family on the edge of Chaohu Lake was obviously a little depressed. Where are the people? Gan Ning jumped onto the dock and roared loudly, and soon an old man dressed as a steward appeared, and when he saw Gan Ning, he was overjoyed and said, Master Gan, you are finally here. My Lu family has been besieged by Sun Ce for several days, and all the stewards have gone to move the rescuers, and please ask Master Gan to help me quickly and rescue my master. I'm here to save them. See if I brought my brothers. Don't worry, just Sun Bofu, it won't be my opponent. Jise has been okay lately? Gan Ning was not in a hurry when he heard this, but asked Lu Jun. Master, it's okay lately, but the old problem has been made again. Recently I heard that Sun Ce is eager to attack. I don't know if the master still has the old lady. The steward also did not leave the theme in 3 sentences. Just one sentence hoped that Gan Ning would save him quickly. Xingba, Ask him about the exact situation recently. We still have to save people.
Chen, she said, a little unbearable.
When the steward heard this, he quickly told what he had learned recently, and also revealed the financial resources of the Lu family now, which can be regarded as Nganning's heart. Don't worry, I'm not interested in your Lu family's money. We're here to pick up the Lu family and leave.
Chen Shi smiled and said, Zhuangdegang is not short of such a little money.
Xingba, I'll give you the command. We made it clear this time that we will collide with Zhu Gongjin and Sun Bofu.
Chen Shi stepped off the boat, patted Gan Ning on the shoulder and said, In that case.
Gan Ning nodded and roared at the ship. The soldiers obey the order. Tai Shitsi sits on Chaohu Lake, guards the ships. Each captain leaves a basic number of battles and controls for each ship, and the rest of the people bring weapons and equipment and divide into 2 teams, led by me and Gan Luo, and march one in front and one behind.
Hey!
Everyone on the ship said no, and then under the leadership of the captains, they quickly unloaded the weapons and equipment for land warfare from the baggage ship, and then prepared the army. Zi, we rely on you on our return. Remember to send more boats to swim around, and don't be attacked. Before leaving, Gan Ning instructed Tai Shitsi, if you are attacked, inform the general in the flagship cabin to fight the enemy with you. Chaohu Lake is very wide, and you must not be surrounded by people. Okay, I will definitely give you a good view of the ship. I will never be attacked. I have learned from you for so long, and my subordinates are also good at operating boats. How can they be easily succeeded?
Don't worry. Tai Shitsi said to Gan Ning solemnly.
Military division, you go with Gan Luo. I will go to see how the situation in Lujiang is first. I am worried that the news of the Lu family steward is a little too late, and more importantly, if necessary, I may still need to fight with Sun Bofu and the others. This is Chaohu. Looking at the current situation, they obviously know that this place belongs to the Lu family, but they have not arranged manpower. I am afraid that they will have the idea of encircling the point early in the morning.
To help.
Gan Ning said to Chen Shi, once Gan Ning enters the state, his IQ will rise rapidly.
Chapter 452, Abolishing One First.
I'll still follow you, even if we surround the point to help. Our troops are not easy for him to take. Let's take a look at the situation in Lujiang first. Chen Shi shook his head and rejected Gan Ning's proposal, and there was no danger in following Gan Ning. Gan Luo was obviously worried that Gan Ning was worried that Lujiang City would be broken and the Lu family would not be able to contact him. Gan Ning thought for a while, then didn't say anything more, and directly turned on the clouds to lead his team to take Chen Shi to Lujiang. Pang Tong, who had extinguished the Lu family and recalled the rear army to pack up the camp and prepare to enter Lujiang City, suddenly raised his head. Not good. It's a little bad. 2 of you actually came. Quickly go and inform Bo Fu and the others. I ordered people to demolish the rear camp and directly form a formation on the spot to defend. The clouds are really troublesome. Even if I don't take the initiative to turn it on, I should cover dozens of miles. I didn't expect to be so close to perceive it.
Ju Yu frowned and said to the herald, Shi Yuan, did you feel it too? Are you also a ranged spiritual talent?
Pang Tong frowned and asked. He had always felt that he was unique. After all, after he turned on his spiritual talent, as long as there were spiritual talents and special abilities nearby, he could feel it, which was very effective in finding top talents.
Yes, didn't I say it?
Speaking of which, except for you, I didn't realize that you had spiritual talent for the first time, and I noticed everyone else. Ju Yu unhurriedly took off the sword hanging in the big tent and hung it on his waist. I don't know what to do with Kuan Dao. It seems inevitable to fight Liu Bei.
When did you say that?
Pang Tong muttered, and then hurriedly followed Ju Yu out. My spiritual talents can be perfectly converged and imperceptible, but that can only be done when I am calm. For example, when I got excited about debating with you later, I couldn't restrain myself. I'm curious who can restrain themselves during war. Ju Yu sneered, and stepped out of the tent as soon as he said that, only to see that the scorching sun was still in the sky before, but this was already windy and cloudy, and the whole sky slowly darkened. Calling the wind and rain, it's useless for a long time.
Chen Shi smiled and said,
I feel that it is much easier now, and it is much easier to control, but it is a pity that I don't have the icy aura of Zijing. If that happens, it can directly reverse the celestial phenomena, turning from rain to snow in the summer, and the other party will be injured before fighting. Gong Jin, you go build a military formation. The clouds of mobilizing the army are turning. Quickly let the army form. I will deal with him. Just a spell to call the wind and rain. Pang Tong took a step, and the wind and sand blowing in his face made his eyes narrow. I'll leave it to you. The sky is originally sunny, and it is much easier for you to disperse than the other party. Ju Yu nodded and ran directly towards the rear camp. He wanted to quickly raise the military formation, so as not to be taken advantage of by Liu Bei's army. As soon as he said that, Pang Tong began to move. In 2 or 3 strokes, The clouds in the sky were cut into pieces, and the sunlight fell directly through those gaps, while Juyu on the other side had already begun to use his spiritual power to assist the messy Sun Ce army to form a military formation and raise the clouds. It was actually torn apart. Look at how powerful I am. Chen Shi laughed. His hands kept moving, wantonly twitching the rain clouds in other places. He already understood that the person who was doing it with him now was definitely a master, and it was very likely that it was Juyu. After all, this technique was too neat. Pang Tong's already ugly face became even more ugly. He didn't expect someone to push the rain clouds against the celestial phenomena to suppress his actions along the celestial phenomena. I will cut your intelligence first. A wave of mental fluctuations passed, but it did not cause any impact on Chen Shi. But Chen Shi clearly understood that this was a negative spiritual talent. Only one cut. Pang Tong's face became more ugly, except for feeling that his body had become stronger. His thinking had not changed. The other party resisted my spiritual talent. This is impossible. Regardless of whether it may be impossible, Chen Shi on the other side has successfully created a large number of rain clouds and pulled them together during the time when Pang Tong was dead, and he dares to guarantee that this time it will definitely be enough to flood Lujiang City into a Ze kingdom. And I have to say that there is a lot of water in the air of Jiangnan. Turn me into Ze Guo. Chen Shi laughed and put his hands together, only to hear a muffled thunder, and in an instant, the dark clouds turned into black clouds, and the entire sky was swam away. Without waiting for Pang Tong Juyu to make any further moves, that piece of sky was like the Qianhe River in myths and legends, and the pouring rain poured down directly. Gan Ning's eyes were almost bulging. He had the best eyesight, and naturally he could see it most clearly. It was no longer raindrops, almost connected into one. According to this kind of heavy rain, a quarter of an hour at most was enough to cause flooding. Damn! Pang Tong ignored the pouring rain, raised his head and struggled to burst out his spiritual power, directly tearing a huge hole in the dark clouds. But the next moment, Chen Shi reacted, and then as if a huge force was coming, he closed the opening little by little, and a muffled thunder sounded at the moment when the opening closed. The moment the rain clouds closed, Pang Tong knew that something was wrong, and immediately withdrew, but unfortunately it was still a step late, and Pang Tong, who was shocked by muffled thunder, had gold stars in his eyes. His voice was sweet, he couldn't stand steadily, and he fell directly into the muddy water. Shi Yuan. Sun Ce, who had just arrived, used his internal energy to support Pang Tong in the heavy rain, and asked worriedly. It's okay, tell Gong Jin that the other party's mental power is extremely frightening, and the two of them are literate and military, although it is unbelievable, but I'm afraid that the civil servant should be Chen Zichuan. Pang Tong smiled bitterly and said, if I had known that the other party's spiritual capacity was so huge, I would never have fought with the other party for mental power. I'm afraid the other party has already been able to cast some purely spiritual spells. Bo Fu, you'd better not get close to him. It's okay if you're okay. Watch me avenge you. Sun Ce stretched out his hand to steam Pang Tong's clothes, grabbed one hand and rushed directly towards the place where Juyu lined up in front and raised the clouds. Abolish Juyu and let you carry it to death with your mental power. Even if you hide quickly, it will be enough to shock you so much that you can't recover for a short time. Chen Shi laughed. Lujiang City is broken. We are late. But just at that moment, Sun Sejuan has just taken Lujiang. We accelerated and directly took advantage of their lack of reaction to copy their back road. Okay. Gan Ning was arrogant. Since Lujiang City is broken, we won't say anything else. Let's avenge the Lu family. Gan Ning took a deep breath and mobilized the clouds desperately. With his eyesight naturally knew that the front had become a Ze country, and in this case, it was absolutely not advisable to go deep into it to fight, so the best choice was to take himself as the center, draw the clouds of the whole army, and fight instead of the whole army. I'll come too. Chen Shi saw that the clouds were flowing around Gan Ning, and he knew what was going on, and instantly mobilized his mental power to connect with the clouds, so that they could flow faster and smoother. Chapter 453 Defeat Juyu again. Can you make the clouds that come out more violent? Gan Ning asked sideways while quickly mobilizing the clouds. As long as you can control it. Chen Shi said with a smile, and then the spiritual power was divided into two, and then it turned into two, becoming more, and the spiritual power of each was interspersed with clouds. Okay. Gan Ning shouted urgently. He didn't expect Chen Shi to do this in just an instant. This is not the speed of human beings at all. I'm stabilizing the structure of cloud chi circulation. It seems that I have developed a new formation, a certain extreme change in the Xuanxiang formation. Chen Shi laughed. Chen Shi also did not expect that his mental power would be fully unfolded and there would be such an amazing effect. The originally extremely cumbersome cloud operation made him even more cumbersome, and in the cumbersome extreme introduced into the mastery of the leader Gan Ning, the ultimate cumbersome instantly returned to simplicity, retaining only the tyranny in it. Don't mention the military formation. I'm dying. Gan Ning's eyes flashed with madness. He couldn't control it. Chen Shi's speed exceeded his imagination. I'll help you stabilize it first. Chen Shi also felt the danger of the whale-like thing above Gan Ning's head at this time, and Chen Shi, who had already realized that he seemed to have a lot of mental strength, no longer cared about it at all, and injected a large amount of mental power, stabilizing Gan Ning's tricks. It's too late. Sun Ce, who had just run in the rain, could already see the man who rushed over first, and even paid attention to the huge cloud structure above Gan Ning's head in the long wind, and looked at the clouds that Ju Yu was struggling to mobilize. He knew that if he was really going to be hit head-on, Sun Ce's army would definitely collapse. Gongjin. Mobilize all the clouds directly. Sun Ce was also a decisive person, and yelled at Ju Yu. Okay. Ju Yu also knew that the situation was critical at this time, and Liu Bei's army came in a hurry. It just so happened that when they were cleaning up the camp, they wouldn't be so embarrassed earlier or later. Sun Ce's existing clouds were directly injected into Sun Ce's body under Ju Yu's adjustment, and Sun Ce, who was originally dressed in golden armor, frantically contained the clouds, and under the pouring rain, a golden sun rose directly. How can you succeed? Gan Ning roared violently. Directly knocked out the turquoise cloud whale, and in an instant, the rainstorm was directly beaten out by the crazy energy, directly knocking out the land outside Lujiang City. Break it for me. Sun Ce stabbed out with a shot. His own spirit took all the clouds that the entire army could accumulate into a huge golden spear and stabbed the cloud whale fiercely. Boom! There was a loud noise, and then Sun Ce's convenience ushered in a messy mental fluctuation, as well as a level 12 storm washing the ground. Originally, if it was just a storm washing the ground, it relied on the few clouds left in that layer to form a shield. Sun Sejuan will not be in too much trouble. At most, blow out those guys who have not entered the military formation. It's a pity that the chaotic mental fluctuations that swept over first directly destroyed the cloud shield by 7, 8, and 8, and even the vast majority of frontline soldiers fell softly without the slightest resistance. If Ju Yu hadn't directly resisted most of the mental shocks, even if this group of people didn't die, it would be difficult to move in a short period of time. The blown-up mud finally stopped falling, and the pouring rain still covered Gan Ning's position hundreds of steps ago, and there were not many enemies who could stand in the rain. Gan Ning took a breath and pulled the reins. Looking at the huge pit more than 100 meters in size, although there was no frontal hit, they completely collapsed. But after this blow, they don't want to gather anymore. My favorite is to take advantage of their unpreparedness, kill them, and kill them. There are not many reinforcements to block the enemy. There is a problem with this brain. Ju Yu didn't hear what Gan Ning said now. If he heard that he would definitely vomit blood, Gan Ning came too flatteringly. If he came early, Ju Yu would have blocked the enemy's rear army and not entered the camp to pull out the camp, and if he came late, Ju Yu would have been sitting in Lujiang City. No matter which one would not be so embarrassed. Bofu, Yuping stopped Gan Ning first. The other party and I have no clouds left, although we have suffered a lot of losses, but the other party has no way to suppress the masters of the internal chi level of the body. Ju Yu pressed his hands on his temples and said with a painful face, although Ju Yu blocked the messy mental impact before, but in a hurry, Ju Yu was also beaten and dizzy. Sun Ce and Ju Tai heard the words and rushed directly towards Gan Ning. The horses they sat on were erased by the mental shock in an instant, and the two of them also received a considerable degree of mental shock because they were on the front line, and even Sun Ce suffered a mental shock because of the blow that Sun Ce was forced to fight for Gan Ning in a hurry, and the whole person was a little sluggish. Ju Tai rushed towards Gan Ning with a dark face, and Sun Ce also knew that it was not the time to take into account his identity at this time, so he tried his best to mobilize his inner energy to kill Gan Ning directly. Scatter around. Go kill the opponent's soldiers first. Gan Ning ordered to a cadre of soldiers behind him. He already knew that the people rushing over from the opposite side were all masters. In this situation without clouds, even if the other party was seriously injured, killing ordinary soldiers was no different from mowing grass. Gan Xingba, it's really you. Ju Tai roared and waved his big knife towards Gan Ning. Ju Yuping. Give me death. Gan Ning grabbed his Hengjiang iron cable with his left hand, shook it in the air, and stabbed directly towards Ju Tai's head, and the machete in his right hand wielded a huge arc and slashed towards Sun Ce. Ding bell. Ju Tai's horizontal knife directly bounced off Gan Ning's Hengjiang iron cable, and slashed at Gan Ning with a black knife chi with his backhand, not wanting Gan Ning to be ready to pull the Hengjiang iron cable and directly block Ju Tai's blow in the air, and at the same time, the crooked Hengjiang iron cable stabbed at the back of the head of Sun Ce, who had picked out Gan Ning's big knife like an eye. Wow! Sun Ce dodged, rushed out from the beaching knife chi slashed by Gan Ning and the Hengjiang iron cable behind him, held a gun in both hands, and stabbed towards Gan Ning frantically, 5 shots in succession, one shot faster than the other, and stabbed directly at Gan Ning with the sound of tearing the air.
Open it for me.
Gan Ning roared. The luster of the blue water on his body suddenly rose. Sun Ce stabbed the tip of his spear and slid to the side involuntarily, and at the same time, the huge light blade that Ju Tai struggled to cut was also slid out by Gan Ning, galloping hundreds of meters, and finally slashed on the ground, directly cutting out a knife mark of more than 10 meters.
Ju Tai, do you have so much strength left?
Gan Ning laughed and said, when he first came to the lower reaches of the Yangtze River, he had a grudge against Ju Tai and had a big fight, but at that time he had just broken through and could only barely maintain his undefeated, and now he has realized that even if Ju Tai is at the peak, he is only similar to himself. Ju Tai struggled to stimulate his inner energy, but unfortunately every attack was involuntarily cut open by the circle of blue water inner energy around Gan Ning, and even if it was pierced, it would be difficult to hit Gan Ning.
Chapter 454 Immortal Blame Ju Tai. The situation is not good.
Chen Shi looked at Sun Ce's army, which had gradually organized a counterattack, and Sun Ce's reinforcements that began to pour out from Lujiang City, and had a headache.
Xingba, quickly solve those two guys.
Chen Shi ordered his soldiers to gather while yelling at Gan Ning.
Okay.
Gan Ning responded without looking back, although Ju Tai and Sun Ce both had injuries. But Gan Ning also knew that he was definitely not able to win it by saying that he wanted to take it, but he liked to challenge the limit.
Die for me.
Gan Ning gathered back all the internal energy that was wandering around his figure, although it was difficult to hurt himself if he did not break through that layer of defense with that layer of protection. But with that layer of defense, his attack could not reach the maximum output. At the next moment, a layer of turquoise inner energy suddenly appeared on the big knife on Gan Ning's body and on the Hengjiang iron cable, constantly shining with that absolute edge. Sun Ce also silently mobilized the remaining internal energy to form a layer of golden armor on his body, and a layer of golden arrogance was also attached to the spear without mistake. As for Ju Tai at this moment, it was like a fierce god possessed. The black flames on his body continued to fly out, and a layer of dark flames was also formed on the big sword.
It looks like you are not compatible.
Gan Ning laughed, and didn't care about anything else. He directly stepped on the air and flew towards Sun Ce. Compared to riding a horse, Gan Ning, who urgently needed a quick decision, believed that his explosive power in a short period of time would definitely surpass that of horses, and he could only kill the two in front of him faster than them.
Kill.
Ju Tai groaned, and the big knife slashed directly in the direction of Gan Ning's electric shooting. One knife and three ways. Blocked Gan Ning's dodge direction up and down, and at the same time, Sun Ce also stabbed out with a shot, without Zhao Yun's gunflowers.
Some are just endless domineering.
Gan Ning cut through Sun Ce's energy with a knife, and the Hengjiang iron cable in his left hand slid through the gaps of the three-knife chi like a python, stabbing towards Ju Tai's head, and he himself also shot out of the direction of the Hengjiang iron cable. When Ju Tai knocked away the Hengjiang iron cable, Gan Ning had already jumped out of those three blade lights, and he was not surprised at all by the tip of the Hengjiang iron cable that Ju Tai bounced back, and his left hand shook slightly.
The iron cable was wrapped around Gan Ning's body.
At the moment when the Hengjiang iron cable was wrapped around his body, Gan Ning's left hand finally freed, and the next moment his left and right hands clenched the machete in his hand and slashed at Ju Tai. The strongest blow that had been brewing, with a turquoise light blade and the speed at which Gan Ning smashed down, slashed fiercely at Ju Tai. In fact, when Ju Tai saw Gan Ning wrapping the Hengjiang iron cable around his body, he knew that something was wrong.
But a flash of lightning and flint.
Ju Tai understood that it was impossible to hide, and there was still a way to survive after fighting to the death, so he mustered up all his strength and exploded all his inner energy and slashed towards Gan Ning.
Rumble.
With a successive roar, the place where Ju Tai was standing before was like a meteorite smashing down, and a mushroom cloud suddenly rose, while Sun Ce rushed towards Ju Tai before the mushroom cloud rose.
Whoa!
With the sound of the air tearing and exploding, Gan Ning, who was slightly blue, jumped out of the dusty place, and the big knife in his hand was gone.
Immediately afterwards, a gust of wind swept by. Ju Yuping underestimated you.
Gan Ning looked at Ju Tai standing in the big pit with slight shock. When Chen Shi looked at the big pit, he saw that most of Gan Ning's machete blade had cut into Ju Tai's shoulder. And Ju Tai's big knife was directly cut in half. The handle of the knife was held in Ju Tai's right hand, the tip of the knife was held in Ju Tai's left hand, and Ju Tai's own waist was also buried in the soil.
Yuping, are you okay?
Sun Ce suddenly found that Ju Tai, who was standing next to him, seemed to have become taller and his body was stronger.
It's okay. It's just a minor injury.
Ju Tai casually skimmed off the broken blades of his left and right hands, and then jumped out of the pit with Sun Ce, completely ignoring that there was a machete next to his shoulder.
Small injury.
Sun Ce's eyes twitched. This kind of injury would not be good even if the internal chi was not raised for a month, but it was really good that Ju Tai was still alive, Sun Ce had never broken an acquaintance for so long. However, Sun Ce finally determined that Ju Tai's height had risen at this time, and if he was 8 feet before, it is estimated that he is more than a foot now. Immortal monster? Chen Shi looked at Ju Tai silently. This guy is the most vigorous monster in this era, and the one in front of him who is still able to fight before he dies. Click. Ju Tai directly pulled out the machete stuck in his shoulder bone, and the huge wound instantly spurted out a large amount of blood, but then it seemed to be suppressed, and the black internal chi gushed out of the wound, and Ju Tai swung the big knife twice as if nothing was wrong. Gan Ning held his Hengjiang iron cable tightly, ready to fight Ju Tai again, but before the two started fighting again, Sun Sejuan of Lujiang City had already been killed under the leadership of Cheng Piyu, Ling Cao, and others. Xingba, it seems that we are unlucky, let's go. Chen Shi waved his horse and waved to Gan Ning. Ju Yuping, my machete will be deposited with you first, and I will definitely get it back next time. Gan Ning sneered at Ju Tai, and without waiting for the other party to reply, a few dodges appeared beside Chen Shi. Let's rescue the soldiers first. I have already ordered people to go to the Yangtze River to prepare. Ju Yu saw that Ling Cao and the others wanted to chase after them, and quickly said, Yuping, are you okay? Sun Ce patted Ju Tai on the back and asked. It's okay now, something will happen soon. This trick can be restored to a level beyond the peak when seriously injured, although my body is strong, but this price is. As he spoke, Ju Tai threw himself to the ground, and his figure, which was originally comparable to a bear, also shrank in a circle, and the blood from the wound gushed out. Hurry up and save people. Sun Ce yelled. He knew that things were not that simple, and these unique skills were not very reliable, especially the better the effect, the less reliable it was. Poof. Gan Ning spat out a mouthful of blood, and wiped the back of his right hand directly over the corner of his mouth. This guy Ju Yuping, brute force is really terrifying. You didn't see that he had become so huge just now. His height had risen by 30%, and his figure had expanded a circle, and it was strange that his strength was not strengthened. I guess you were beaten out before, sure enough. Wait a while to take some medicine, don't leave hidden dangers. Chen Shi sighed and said, when Gan Ning jumped out of the smoke before, Chen Shi guessed that the situation was not very good. I originally planned to cut him in half, but the estimate was wrong. His big knife offset most of the strength, and the internal chi was also the same, so I could only cut it like that, and then he was imprinted on my chest with a palm, knocking me out. This unique skill is really not weak. By the way, what is it about you that he is an immortal monster? Gan Ning grabbed the reins of the horse and said with a wry smile, Ju Tai blocked his strongest blow was indeed unexpected by him. Chapter 455 Ju Yu. The immortal monster means that Ju Yoping's vitality is extremely strong, and he basically can't kill him. Chen Shi shrugged helplessly and said, that guy won't take his head off on the spot. You'll just beat him to the point where he is only breathing, and the next time you see him, he's still alive. You're kidding. Gan Ning tugged at the corners of his mouth, and while using internal chi to treat internal injuries, he asked incredulously, I haven't heard of such a person. But the reality is like this. Ju Tai belongs to that rare role. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, he now also understood that the characteristics left by these people in history have not changed, but because the world has become stronger, their characteristics are also getting stronger, and the immortal Ju Tai has become stronger. Gan Ning didn't say anything more, but he kept what Chen Shi said in his heart. After all, if Ju Tai really had that kind of trait, it would be very difficult to kill a person who can only die by cutting off his head. Gan Ning felt that this was something that Lu Biyu could do. It looks like Sun Bofu didn't chase after him. Chen Shi pulled the reins and slowed down and looked back, but today's matter is quite magical. Ju Yu and other characters actually didn't react, and what is even more amazing is that there is no rear army cover, and there is no tail chase. No matter how you think about it, there are some problems. If Sun Ce is counted as a force, the strongest under his command is not these immature armies, but Sun Ce's navy that has been captured in Jiangxia and retrained. Gan Ning's mind turned quickly, and he instantly figured out this simplest and most realistic plan. I'm afraid that the time we came was very coincidental, and as for the Yangtze River water battle, I didn't think about avoiding it. I also need to see how far we are from the strongest navy in the world. Chen Shi thought for a while and spoke. The strongest in the world, ha 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 ha. I, Gan Xingba, don't call myself the strongest navy in the world. Who is so arrogant? Gan Ning raised his eyebrows, although he already knew who Chen Shi was talking about, but Gan Ning would never approve of this kind of thing that would increase the ambition of others and destroy his own prestige. Maybe you can win. Chen Shi touched his chin and said, Hey, I knew that I hadn't even opened my mouth. What are they? Gan Ning's face was happy, and after his death, he thought of the Lu family's affairs. His face darkened, and he sighed and said, our mission is smashed.
The Lu family is gone.
Alas, if I had known, I would have gone to it for a while. Looking at the previous situation, Lujiang City would not be able to break for about an hour. It's not that simple, although Lujiang City is broken, but the Lu family may not have an accident, although there are indeed families that have been destroyed by war, but most families will be prepared before the war. At least it will leave the opportunity and blood of the rise. Chen Shi shook his head and said, while Sun Bofu and the others don't care, let's quickly find the Lu family. Maybe there will be some gains.
I hope so.
Gan Ning sighed and said, I don't know if Gan Luo has gained anything. On the other side, Sun Ce carried Ju Tai to Lujiang City, and after some treatment, he didn't know whether to say that the doctor was at a high level or that Ju Tai was in good health. In short, Ju Tai's fatal injury was quickly stabilized, and Ju Tai also woke up an hour later.
It hurts.
Ju Tai hadn't cried out in pain yet. Pang Tong, who had just woken up, had already begun to scream in pain. He was the most unlucky. First he was ruthless by Chen Shi, his brain was mixed, and then he was brought to the front of the battle by Sun Ce. When Chen Shi released a mental shock, Pang Tong habitually carried a large piece, and naturally fell again.
Shi Yuan is okay.
Sun Ce asked Pang Tong, who was holding his head a little nervously.
Chen Zichuan, I must let you enjoy it too.
Oh, it hurts. Before Pang Tong could finish his harsh words, he began to scream again.
Okay, don't scream.
Ju Yu sat aside and said to Pang Tong, who was still calling. My head is about to explode. Why are you okay? Pang Tong tried his best to turn his head to look at Ju Yu on the side. He didn't want to lose face in front of Ju Yu. I was just caught off guard. Forget it, I'll give you a song on the piano, and it can be better and faster. Saying that, Ju Yu put his green qichin on his legs and played it slowly. An inexplicable fluctuation floated out of the strings, and Pang Tong, who had felt severe pain in his head before, also felt a touch of coolness. At the end of the song, Pang Tong involuntarily moved his body twice. It seemed that his brain was not as painful as before, and even his mental strength had recovered a lot. Pang Tong looked at Ju Yu with a complicated expression. He was jealous of a person for the first time. Ju Yu seemed to have taken all the good things in the world: spiritual talent, special ability, legion talent, piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, military strategy, handsome, and the little Qiao Guose who was hooked up recently is not enough to describe its charm. Are you God's own son?
Why are you all good things? Shi Yuan, are you better?
The afterglow was faint, and Ju Yu's gentle voice reached Pang Tong's ears.
Thank you, Gongjin.
Ju Tai, who was bandaged on his body, sat up, waved his left and right arms, and then did a chest expansion exercise, although he was a little uncomfortable, but it seemed to have been well raised for a few days.
I want you to take care of it.
Pang Tong said unhappily. In his opinion, Ju Yu was really too annoying, no matter what. Ju Yu glanced at Pang Tong speechlessly. He rarely played the piano for others, let alone use the green qichin, but Pang Tong actually didn't appreciate it. Forget it, let's go to the Yangtze River to clean up Chen Zichuan together. Do you want to go? Yuping looks like you're recovering well, and your physical fitness is really good. Even if you don't say I'll go, let me suffer such a big loss. How can I not get it back? But this is not in line with your previous personality. Pang Tong looked at Ju Yu, no matter how unhappy he was with Ju Yu, but as a comrade in arms, Ju Yu was the most reliable character under Sun Ce in Pang Tong's view. Ju Tai still wanted to interject, but was held down by Sun Ce. This kind of planning was still handed over to Ju Yu. They were only suitable for leading troops to fight in battle, and the pre-war plan was not what they should do. Whether the natural danger of the Yangtze River is a natural danger or a two-way statement, and our strength also needs to be evaluated by the other party. Ju Yu said with a smile, our strongest is the navy, the most important thing in the north is the cavalry, and the most important thing in our south is the navy. I have the same idea as me, but I'm not trying to determine whether our navy is good enough. What I have to do is defeat them on the Yangtze River. Only in this way can I eliminate the hatred in my heart. Pang Tong said with an arrogant face. Ju Yu glanced at Pang Tong and turned his head silently. Shi Yuan, you still need to sharpen it. We can only test at most. It is impossible to keep them. Chen Zichuan is Liu Xuanda's right-hand man. Chapter 456 Bo Fu. Your opportunity has come. Ju Yu saw that Pang Tong was eager to try and did not persuade anything, and it was good to maintain such a momentum. At least he needed a person with momentum like Pang Tong, but more intelligent.
Gongjin, I will go there then.
Seeing Ju Yu and Pang Tong finish speaking, Sun Ce stretched out his hand and pressed it on Ju Yu's shoulder, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. I must ask Gan Xingba to give an explanation for Yoping's injury. Lord, I beg the Lord to let me fight with you. This time I will never be paralyzed and careless. Gan Xingba is not qualified to let you make a move. Please let me fight in your place.
Ju Tai got up and knelt down in front of Sun Ce on one knee and said, "Please, Lord, let me fight with you." Ling Cao also appeared in front of Sun Ce and said solemnly, "I was born in Jiangnan, and the water battle on the Yangtze River is also what I am best at. As the old saying goes, the Lord is worried and humiliated, and I ask the Lord to give me a chance to wash away the shame." Yu Ping, Kuan Dao quickly got up. Sun Ce pulled one in one hand, not wanting both of them to kneel on the ground motionless like stone sculptures. Bofu, bring Yu Ping, Kuan Dao, Cheng Huang Han, the three generals, also bring them. All the elite infantry of our army are taken away, the generals are all empty. We went to do a game with the other party on the Yangtze River. Ju Yu stood up and said to Sun Ce, "The trip to Jiangdong needs to end early. The two of us will definitely avenge our shame." Ling Cao held Ju Tai's arm and solemnly bowed to Ju Yu and Sun Ce. "Is it necessary to take them all?" Sun Ce said with a dissatisfied face, "If they hadn't come too coincidentally today, we wouldn't have been so embarrassed. By the way, and Gong Jin, what do you mean that the trip to Jiangdong is coming to an end?" Chen Zichuan, as the most important courtier under Liu Xuande, will never come out lightly. I'm afraid there is also a foolproof plan, so we should figure out how much weight the other party and Liu Xuande have, which can be regarded as a gift to Yuan Gong. Although Pang Tong was half dead by Chen Shi and resentful, he calmed down a little and understood that he couldn't help but mess around in the current situation. Ju Yu raised his eyelids silently. Pang Tong's excellence surprised him slightly, and he could still calm his mind to think under anger. This is enough to be an excellent strategist. Thinking of this, Ju Yu silently stretched out his hand and patted Pang Tong's shoulder, and then gave Sun Ce a look. Sun Ce curled his lips and didn't continue to ask, "What's the matter?" Pang Tong turned his head and looked at the smiling Ju Yu puzzled. "You will probably surpass me." Ju Yu smiled and said, "I see that possibility from you." "Nonsense, I'm definitely better than you. I've been learning how to command an army lately. You wait and see. I'll definitely be better than you." Pang Tong said unhappily. For Ju Yu's almost perfect posture, he couldn't help but envy an ugly person like Pang Tong. "Well, you keep working hard. I'll explain what you told me to Bo Fu. After all, it's really hard to say whether Yuan Gong's matter is a blessing or a curse." Ju Yu smiled and said, "You take a break too. I already have a way to deal with Chen Zichuan's mental attack. His attack is too complicated." The corners of Pang Tong's eyes twitched a little. The most amazing thing about Ju Yu is that he is always so calm, as if the sky is cracking and it is not difficult for Ju Gongjin. He is always so confident in his own intelligence to solve all problems, confident that everything will be solved, and more importantly, so far Pang Tong has never seen anything stump Ju Yu. "Let's go, Bofu, go out with me. I have something to explain to you. Things may have changed, and many things can be seen in the Battle of Lujiang." Ju Yu stood up and calmly packed his clothes, then gave Sun Ce a look, and walked out while talking to himself. "See a lot of things. What can you see? Isn't it just a joke that the so-called 4 Jiangdong families are in the same breath, and there are also big internal differences? What is this? Yuan Yao is dying is not a good thing. What is Ju Yu talking about by himself?" Pang Tong turned over to the bed and couldn't help but think about the few words Ju Yu had said before, but he didn't see the smile on the corner of Ju Yu's mouth. "Gong Jin, do you have anything to tell me?" Sun Ce came out of the main hall and looked at Ju Yu and asked, "We need to go back to Shouchuan. Yuan Gong's son Yarrow is critically ill." Ju Yu said in a low voice. "What? How is it possible? I abolished all my internal qi that looked like Lu Fengxian and injected it into Yaodi. Not to mention anything else, he is almost at the level of refining qi into a gang." Sun Ce said incredulously, "Not to mention that refining qi into a gang is immune to all diseases. At least you won't get sick when you are idle. How can you be critically ill?" Ju Yu told Sun Ce all about the whole thing, only to see Sun Ce's angry palm slapping on the stone platform, and the entire stone platform directly turned into rubble. "Cao Ren, Dushi, if something happens to Yaodi, I will not spare you waiting." After a long time, Sun Ce looked in the direction of Jiangnan and sighed. "Forget it, Jiangdong is desirable at any time, but Yaodi can't ignore it. Let's go back to the army. How to say that this matter is also related to me?" A smile appeared on Ju Yu's face, and he knew that Sun Ce would choose this way. After all, this was also a kind of loyalty and brotherhood. "Then let's have a fight with Chen Zichuan on the Yangtze River, and then turn back to Shouchuan. If you want to come to Yaodi during Qianxiang, there will be nothing wrong." Ju Yu smiled and said, "But Bofu, don't do anything special. At this time, you would rather be conservative than try dangerous things." Sun Ce looked at Ju Yu with a puzzled face, but Ju Yu did not open his mouth to explain for Sun Ce as before, but just looked at Sun Ce so calmly, until he saw Sun Ce stupid at him, and finally the endless words turned into a sigh. "Bofu, you can't become a hegemon yet.
Your courage is enough, your heroic strength is enough, and your initial accumulation is enough. But you are still not mature enough, and the father's hatred you bear can actually easily take Jingxiang with your current strength. Zhu Yu looked at the blue sky and silently thought that Huang Zhong, Kuai Yu, Kuai Liang, and Sai Mao were backhanded to him. Now is the moment when the rainstorm is coming. The Yangtze River road to break Sai Mao is no more difficult for me than defeating Huang Zhu. Jiangling is by the Yangtze River, a river is enough to break it, but what about after the father's revenge? Yuan Gong is very stupid and stupid, he has his own principles. You have your own principles. If you avenge your father with his help, I am afraid that it will be difficult to turn back in this life. You need to be a hero, not a general, and now your luck is coming. Zhu Yu retracted his gaze and slowly fell on Sun Ce. Zhu Yu never told Sun Ce the fact that Jingxiang was desirable. He had been confusing the current situation. Liu Biao was too weak, lost Jingbei Fuxiao, and was defeated one after another. Chapter 457 Lu Kang's Wisdom. This situation is not right. It seems that Sun Tzujuan doesn't care about our actions. Gan Ning and Sun Tzujuan looked at each other from a distance and asked a little strangely. I don't know, who knows what Zhu Gongjin is thinking. It's better for him not to deal with us, or he doesn't want to fight us now. Chen Shi pondered Gan Ning's mind and said. In fact, what Chen Shi wants to say more is that Zhu Yu knows that land warfare is not superior, and he doesn't want to waste troops and fight them to the death. But the more this happens, the more Chen Shi is worried about how many troops Zhu Yu will invest on the Yangtze River. The most classic of the Wu state is always the water battle. Since Zhu Yu defeated the Jiangxia Huangzu, the title of the world's first navy, the Wu state has not been taken off. Let's look for a few more days. If not, we can only leave. Chen Shi sighed and said, if Zhu Yu really wants to equip the Yangtze River water, then it will not be easy for them to leave. Jiangxia, it is really not far from Lujiang. Let's just let each other go. Sun Ce stood at the head of the city and said dissatisfiedly. We are also looking for the Lu family, so let's take a break. Besides, Yoping's injury has not yet recovered, and there are not many naval forces in place now, and the main force of our army is not in place yet. Zhu Yu smiled and said, he didn't take it to heart that the Lu family couldn't find him, he was just grinding time. After all, their navy was not in place. HMPH. Then tolerate them for a while. Sun Ce looked at Chen Shi who was camping in the distance with dissatisfaction, and that guy had already set up 5 or 6 camps outside Lujiang city. By the way, Bofu, you will demolish those barracks every once in a while. Don't let him really surround us with the barracks. That would be very troublesome. Zhu Yu said to Sun Ce. Sun Ce himself was bored. Zhu Yu found him something to do, and basically dismantled it without going through his brain. Zhu Gongjin should be so cautious. Before I could do anything else, he started demolishing my abandoned barracks, which was boring. Chen Shi sighed and said, the barracks itself didn't have much hope, but it was still unhappy to be demolished like this. Pang Tong has been thinking about the unclear words Zhu Yu said before Zhu Yu these days, but with Pang Tong's in-depth observation, he really saw a little reason, but this reason is wrong. Hey, Gongjin, I ask you a question, are you reliable? Pang Tong walked over slowly. The expression was a little hesitant. If it was as he thought, Zhu Yu would be very unreliable. Very reliable. Zhu Yu didn't even bother to go back, and Pang Tong was in Zhu Yu's memory. Every once in a while, it enters the nervous phase. During that period of time, Pang Tong would be upside down and strange. I don't think your approach is reliable. You see that Bo Fu is so loyal, it would be great if you forced him to go the other way? Pang Tong frowned and asked, the path you choose may not be suitable for Bo Fu. No, it must be the most suitable, because he is the one who makes the choice in the end. Zhu Yu turned around and looked at Pang Tong and said, you know, I never force Bo Fu to do something. But what you are doing now is cutting down all the roads. In the end, there is only one way left. You go up and fool son Bo Fu doesn't want to follow you, and he has to go. Pang Tong said dissatisfiedly. He was very satisfied with Sun Ce's current loyalty, and naturally he didn't want Sun Ce to abandon these because of Zhu Yu one day. Ha! Zhu Yu looked at Pang Tong puzzled, and then showed a clear smile. Shi Yuan, you guy, I'm that kind of image in your heart? Not before, now it is. Pang Tong said indifferently. You guy, go back and think again, don't let your delusions cover your eyes. Zhu Yu patted Pang Tong's shoulder unhappily and said, remember one thing, I will not harm Bo Fu, nor will I let him do things that embarrass him. Bo Fu will take responsibility for himself and choose his own path. I just let him go farther on that road than everyone else. In a village in the west of the city, the 4 members of the Lu family were calmly eating lunch with the villagers, chatting about the grain harvest in recent years, looking like they were really small landlords who had lived here for many years, and even the villagers living here did not find that the 4 members of the Liu family had been replaced. Father, I think we should live for a while before going north. Sun Bofu widely issued an order to stabilize the people, not to harass the people under his rule, and the villagers of Lujiazhuang can also prove that we are the third generation of the Liu family's ancestors and grandchildren, and we can't find out. Lu Jun indifferently picked up a piece of fish with chopsticks and ate it. Let's wait 2 more days and go north. Until now there is no news from Jiangdong. Hey, the Zhong family, the Jiyu family, the Zhu family is really disappointing. Lu Kang shook his head and said, with a cheerful expression of an old man playing with his grandson. There have been 3 waves of soldiers passing by this Lujiazhuang, but most of them have searched the house. As for the generous 3 generations of Liu family's ancestors and grandchildren, no one doubts it. After all, the old Liu family has lived here for decades, and the people of the whole village can prove that this family who lives in the depths is a good person. In fact, this is the mystery set by Lu Kang. Lujiazhuang was built by the Liu family more than 50 years ago to gather refugees, and the old Liu family, a landlord who lives in a deep and simple place, is also Lu Kang's suspicious formation. He found a stand-in for everyone in his family, some of which even looked very good, so that they could be fake fathers and sons, fake grandparents and grandchildren all over Lujiang City. There are a total of 8 such villages, and each Liu family can enter and replace the original 3 generations of grandparents and grandchildren at any time, and then the 3 generations of good people who are not good at communicating take over the original interpersonal relationships and continue to act without flaws. Let's put it this way, as long as you are not a person who is very familiar with Lu Kang, you will only think that there will be such a similar role in this world. Not that this is Lu Kang, and the temperament of the old farm man who is honest is very different from the previous old and strong Lujiang County Governor Lu Kang. As for the reason why he stayed in the west of the city, the reason could not be simpler, because the west of the city was dark under the lights, and Juyu did order people to search several times, and then he understood that the Lu family was not here. In short, although the west of the city was still attacked by soldiers from time to time, but no group of soldiers could have imagined that this old landlord who submissively invited them to dinner was the Lu Kang they had always wanted to find. It seems that Ju Yu is not the only one who searched for us recently. Do we want to send someone to contact us? The army asked his father. Send a dead man to get in touch. Don't expose our current situation. See who is looking for us. I'm a little worried that Ju Yu is pretending to be a ghost. Of course, if it is the Jiangdong family, it means that we still have opportunities to cooperate in the future. If it is Liu Xuander's subordinates, then his sincerity is very sufficient. Lu Kang thought for a while and said, he still had a glimmer of hope for the Jiangdong family. After all, they had supported each other for many years. Chapter 458, The Lu Family's Choice. Zuna, take your uncle to play. I want to tell your father something. Lu Kang gestured to the 11-year-old Lu Zun, and Lu Zun, who was obviously more mature than his uncle Lu Ji, nodded and took Lu Ji away. Zuna, my injury has stabilized. As you said, it's time for us to find a next home. If the 3 families in Jiangdong don't come to pick us up, according to my meaning, we don't have to go to Jiangdong, some industry, give up if we give up. Lu Kang looked at Lu Zun, who left calmly, and left silently. Compared to this unsuccessful son, he was more optimistic about his grandson. Go to Liu Xuander's place. I have been there several times before. In my opinion, Liu Xuander has the mind to accommodate the world, and he doesn't care about our previous refusal, and Chen Zichuan has also made a wish for us, and more importantly, although Xingba has a strange personality, he can be said to be inseparable from me. These are our advantages. Lu Jun said with a smile. Gan Ning is now a person in charge of the army. The old man did look away at the beginning. Speaking of Gan Ning, Lu Kang couldn't help but sigh. Speaking of which, Lu Kang basically didn't have a good impression of Gan Ning, who had a jumpy personality, especially the other party was born in a family, and he actually went to the Yangtze River to be a thief regardless of his identity. Well, it's just a thief, and more importantly, this guy was not ashamed, but proud, which made Lu Kang, a stubborn dogmatic old man, very dissatisfied. Later, when he heard that Gan Ning had done a series of major things in the north, Lu Kang did not continue to hint that Lu Jun was leisurely. No matter how strange Gan Ning's personality was, the other party's ability must be recognized. For the family, capable people have willful capital, and Gan Ning's ability is enough to make him rise in the hands of any open-minded lord. Xingba is indeed a little too reckless, but it is precisely because of the recklessness that I am not worried about what he will think badly of us. This guy is unhappy, everything is written on his face, without concealment, although sometimes it embarrasses me, but his uprightness makes me very relieved. Lu Jun couldn't help but smile when he thought of Gan Ning's character, although there was an obvious second mistake. But interacting with such a scheming person, as long as you can stand him committing 2 mistakes from time to time, is actually really good. Take refuge in Liu Bei. Our family doesn't do anything to divide the family, and it's our kind of family that people are not prosperous. Alas, you bastard don't have to make me so dissatisfied if you marry a few more concubines. Lu Kang thought about the situation of his family. There are only 4 people left in the lineage. The other collateral lines don't know how far it is, and the responsibility for spreading branches and leaves can only be placed on the second son and grandson, and the eldest son is no longer reliable. Lu Jun looked at the sky speechlessly, as if his father had married several concubines. Wasn't Ding Buwang of the Lu family brought out by the ancestors of the Lu family several generations ago? There is only one wife, and there is more than one wife and a few concubines, and they are not very able to give birth, so it is strange that the population can be vigorous. Zuna is also bigger. It's time to find him a wife. Lu Jun kicked his son out without hesitation, and at this time his son was the one who blocked the disaster for Lao Tzu. As for whether it is suitable or not, the emperor of the Han dynasty has not been popular for child marriage recently, although it is not in line with the custom of marriage at the age of 18 in the family, but the marriage can be arranged first. As for the other postponed discussions, the Zhong family, the Jiyu family, and the Zhu family are all forgotten. Since we plan to abandon Jiangdong, let's not do this kind of disconnected thing again, and when I go back, I will write a letter to push away the affairs of the Zhong family and our family. Lu Kang sighed and said, let's find another girl who is the right one. Since you want to vote for Xuan Gong, then find a woman of the right age among his important ministers. Lu Jun followed the normal thinking pattern of the family. No matter what era, the marriage was always the most reliable, and it was also the most unreliable way to bring the relationship between the two sides closer. Liu Xuanda's important ministers? Lu Kang nodded. It should indeed be so, but there are only a few people under Liu Xuanda who can be called important ministers, and only Jiao Wenhe has daughters, and the others, Guan Yunchang has a son, Chen Zichuan has just married, Liu Xiang has a son, Mi Zizhuang has a son and a daughter, but the daughter is not yet 3 years old, and Lu Zijing and others are still single. In a word, it seems that the daughter of Liu Bei's important minister is Jiao Shu, and the problem is that Jiao Shu, a self-preservation maniac, will definitely not marry a daughter. Why should the father be limited to his daughter? Most of the civil and military officials under the command of Duke Xuanda are not old, so compared with their daughters, their sisters are the right age for Zuna. Lu Jun said with a smile. Yes, that's it. Lu Kang patted his head, but I'm confused. It seems that my son has made a choice. I remember, Liu Xuanda has a sister under his command. Whether it is age or appearance, it is more than enough for my family's Zuna. Lu Jun said with a smile. I don't know whose sister it is. Lu Kang asked. Mi Zizhong's sister Mi Zhan can be described as a natural beauty, gentle and courteous, and generous. Lu Jun couldn't help but admire the little girl he saw at the Mi family when he went to Mount Tai for her brother. Having said that, Mi Zhan was in a good mood that day, and Lu Kang was his brother's friend, so Mi Zhan didn't make any small moves, and because of this, Lu Kang enjoyed very good treatment. Otherwise, if it is an acquaintance like Chen Shi, Mi Zhenxing will make you understand what a little devil is, the treasure of the whole Mi family, the pearl of Mi Zhu's palm. If it was just a rich lady before, now it is directly a super lady of officials, eunuchs, and wealthy businessmen. In short, Lu Zun can't afford to marry home. Lu Jun's proposal is really not a good proposal. Speaking of which, there is actually another one, but this one of our Lu family may not be able to calm down, say Boji's daughter, Sai Zhaoji. Lu Jun thought of He Yang, who was stunned at the beginning, and the worry that could not be dissolved between his eyebrows and eyes made Lu Jun, the supreme guy who was the supreme wife, feel a kind of amazement, and then think about it. He Yang is actually not too old. You dare to say this? Bastard. Lu Kang wanted to beat his son with a cane, and the Mi family was just that before, and he even dared to hit the attention of Sai Yang and others. I told you that our Lu family may be a little uncalm. Lu Jun said with a wry smile, but Sai Yang's kind of talented woman made Lu Jun really have some ideas. After all, the better the mother, the better their Lu family descendants will be. The Cai family only has Cai Zhaoji left, and the marriage contract between Cai Zhaoji and the Wei family is also over, although it is possible to remarry or be single. But whether it is single or remarried, it is impossible for us. The name of Kafu is fine. If you can remarry, Cai Zhaoji might as well recruit a son-in-law for the Cai family. This is more realistic. Lu Kang shook his head and said, Lu Jun has still experienced too little. He Yang is a noble daughter after all. She has suffered a loss, and her father has died. For her it doesn't matter if she marries, and recruiting a son-in-law is the most worry-free choice. Chapter 459 Lu Family News. Although Lu Jun didn't understand what his father thought, he knew that he should cut off all his thoughts about Sai Yang when he saw his father's situation, and it seemed that his son Lu Zun was not blessed to suffer such a beauty. Mi family, when the time comes, you go and discuss it with Mi Zizhong. Lu Kang sighed. In his opinion, the Mi family is the most suitable in all aspects, neither clinging nor damaging his identity, and more importantly, Mi Zhu is very low-key among the cultural relics ministers under Liu Xuanda. It's okay. Lu Jun nodded and said, the Mi family, Mi Zizhong is a gentleman. After that, The Lu family father and son didn't say anything more, and found a dead man to investigate the information, and the rest of the time was like an old man of a landlord and a wealthy family, leaning on the big stone outside the door, covering his face with a straw hat lazily basking in the sun, and from time to time the villagers passing by him moved away softly and lightly. No one thought that this lazy old man basking in the sun would be Lu Kang. It's almost time. If there is still no news today, we will withdraw. Jiangxia County is too close to Lujiang, and it is down the river. If we continue to stay, I am afraid that we will officially fight with Sun Bofu's Jiangxia Navy. Chen Shi sighed and said to Gan Ning, "That's all there is to it. If I see Lu Jitsai in the future, I will definitely beat him up. I tried so hard to find him, and he didn't come out." Gan Ning also said helplessly, he was not a fool. The longer he stayed in Lujiang, the more likely they were to be ambushed, and the higher the danger. Just when Chen Shi and Gan Ning were thinking about whether to evacuate in batches or evacuate unabashedly that night, Gan Luo appeared outside the account. "Yo! Gan Luo shouldn't have found it. Your time card is good." Gan Ning asked for the first time. Gan Luo had been scolded by him several times recently, and he didn't appear in front of him much. And now they dare to appear, so naturally they dare to appear only when there is good news. With the news of the Lu family, when Xiong brought in the guy you caught, Gan Luo's face was happy, and he did not reply to Gan Ning's question directly, but just yelled outside the tent. Soon a strong man escorted a man who looked like a farmer in. Xu Wenxiong has seen General Gan and Chen Junsha. "General Gan. I am the master's personal guard. We have met before." The man dressed as a farmer was overjoyed when he saw Gan Ning. Gan Ning raised his eyebrows and thought about it again and again. "Lu Liang? It seems to be this name. Brother Lu and the old lady are fine. Take me to find them, uncles. I've been looking for it for a long time. You're ready to leave today, and you just came out." The guard was a little embarrassed. He didn't call Lu Liang, but this time was not the time to explain this. As long as Gan Ning recognized it, it would be a good thing. He didn't expect that his disguise was so good that it would be seen, and then he was caught by Xu Sheng and twisted over. He thought it was Sun Sejuan at first. Unexpectedly, it was actually Gan Ning's subordinate. "Let it go, let it go." Gan Ning looked at Xu Sheng and let the other party go. "Your name is Xu Wenxiong. Well, last time you captured Zhao Yang and assisted our army to take Pengcheng, without giving you any rewards. You can be regarded as saving the Lu family this time, and when you come back to Taishan to deploy to the warship, you can be the captain of the new ship." Gan Ning was a little embarrassed. After all, every warship in the Navy now has an owner, and Gan Ning seems to be very suitable, and there is no captain to make him unpleasant, so to promote Xu Sheng, who is now equivalent to the commander, the best choice is to send him a warship and let him stuff his ton people into the small fleet led by the new warship. As for other rewards, they are a little out of the table. Xu Sheng looked surprised after hearing this. Even if it was a small warship, after bringing a bunch of small sailboards and pulling up his 500 people, it looked like it was a menacing one. "General Gan, my master's family is not in serious trouble, except for the old lady who was injured by the momentum of Huang Gari. The rest of the people have not been injured in the slightest, and they have been in the small village west of Lujiang City in the past few days." The guard who was called Lu Liang by Gan Ning and actually called Lu Ming clasped his fists and said, "Oh, then that's great. Let's go pick up the Lu family." Gan Ning laughed. "Xingba, we are ready to retreat to clean up the camp. Let Wenxiong and Gan Luo pick up the Lu family. We will pull out the whole army. If we also go, it will cause trouble to the villagers in that village." Chen Shi waved his hand. He already understood why he didn't search for the Lu family when he searched in the village in the west of the city before. "Oh, Gan Luo, you go with Wenxiong and take the Lu family away, so as not to affect the people in the village." Gan Ning waved his hand. He also understood what Chen Shi meant. Ju Yu and Sun Ce may not care about the people of that village, but the officials at the bottom may not be angry. Ju Yu and Sun Ce stood at the head of the city and looked at Liu Beijun who was cleaning up the camp in the distance. Sun Ce couldn't help but frown. "Gong Jin, why do you think they want to move the camp again, and they don't fight head-on? It's not interesting to dismantle the camp. It's not about moving the camp, but about to evacuate. Chen Zichuan pinched the time very well, and our Jiangxia Navy will be in place later. And now, when their navy leaves Chaohu Lake and enters the Yangtze River, our navy only has the vanguard of the first department to arrive, and Chen Zichuan is also afraid of us." Ju Yu shook his head and said, "Chen Zichuan is very cautious, but not to mention anything else, I can't lift out Bofu's old bottom at all. Bofu's strength can only be suppressed within the scope of Yuan Gong's approval." Ju Yu thought silently, but if he was so cautious, it would be much more difficult to deal with it, but the danger would be relatively low. Ju Yu's idea is not wrong in the conventional situation, but it is very inappropriate to put it on Chen Shi, because Chen Shi knows that his intelligence is not as good as these top figures, so he will deal with these people cautiously, and then rely on experience, not wisdom, or even brainless pushing to defeat the other party. For a wise man, the most tragic thing is that you are better than the other party in every aspect, and even you can call every point perfect, but you can't really beat the other party. Even if you win, it's just a small game, and the art of war you rack your brains to come up with can only let yourself survive, and the overall strategic situation can never be reversed. Ju Yu didn't feel that way so far. The talents of Jiangdong Jingxiang were as amazing as Pang Tong at most, but none of the wise men who played against him made him feel heavy pressure. The young and frivolous Ju Yu, there is a proud heart under the gentle monument. He needs challenges, pressure, and needs to prove. Jiangdong, Jingxiang, Yuan Shu, these low-difficulty challenges. Let him not feel the slightest excitement. Even if the battle is amazing in the eyes of others, it cannot stimulate Ju Yu's proud heart. Chapter 460 Thank you. Chen Shi's appearance made Ju Yu interested. The reason is very simple. Chen Shi's ability has been proven to too many people, and now Chen Shi has passed the period when he needs to prove himself with achievements and practical politics. Of course, the most important thing is that Chen Shi is only 1 year older than Ju Yu. Ju Yu is 19 this year. Chen Shi is 20 years old. It can be described as in the prime of life. It is precisely because of this that Ju Yu is more interested in competing with Chen Shi, the wise man who is sung in the world today. Only by defeating this kind of person can Ju Yu feel excited. After Chen Shi and Gan Ning led their troops to evacuate, it didn't take long for Gan Luo and Xu Sheng to rush over with the 4 members of the Lu family and Mrs. Lu Jun. Old Lu Kang has seen the Marquis of Yingxiang Pavilion. After Lu Kang saw Chen Shi and Gan Ning, he immediately guessed Chen Shi's identity. Old Mrs. Lu doesn't have to be like this. Chen Shi said with a flat face, his current identity has been destined that he cannot be so casual in front of outsiders. Presumably, this is Lu Zun, the 3rd generation of the Lu family, right? Error-free novel. Lu family. Lu Zun has seen the Marquis of Yingxiang Pavilion and Uncle Gan. Lu Zun bowed to Chen Shi and Gan Ning extremely formally, and that solemn and respectful look made Chen Shi think of Zhuge Liang. You are very good. When the carriage comes, we can go. Wait until Chao Hu I introduce you to someone, 1 year older than you can be a playmate with him. Chen Shi smiled and said, it is really good to introduce Lu Zun to Zhuge Liang, and it is good for 2 equally excellent all-rounders to stimulate each other. GCAI. You guys are really unreliable, alas. I came all the way, you hold on for an extra hour, and you will defeat Sun Ce from front and back. Why don't you know how to have an extra hour? It's a waste. Gan Ning turned his head and saw Lu Jun with a dissatisfied face and said, the city is broken and leave me a message, but I have been looking for you for so long. Alas, if I don't come out today, I will leave. My father was wounded in the battle of Lujiang City. How can you move so lightly? Lu Jun shook his head and said, but being able to catch up when you are about to leave is enough to show that you and I are destined, and we plan to go to Mount Tai. You don't give us a ride? Lu Jun and Gan Ning have been together for a long time, and they are no longer as old-fashioned as before. I told you to go to Mount Tai with me. No one dares to pay attention to you there, now. Forget it. Forget about the sadness, everyone is there, and you can make money again when the money is gone. Gan Ning's words made Lu Jun roll his eyes straight, and he lost his temper, which was a bit mocking in front of them. But fortunately, Lu Jun also knew that Gan Ning himself was such a personality, and in fact he was not a bad person. Forget it, I'll tell you later. There are only a few people in my Lu family. Why do you need so much money? Lu Jun shook his head and said, the core technology and core craftsmen of the Lu family are still in hand, and the loss is only superficial. There is nothing that cannot be bet. Okay, don't say anything. You hurry up and help your uncle and sister-in-law get into the car, and we'll have a good talk when we get to my territory. Gan Ning looked at the carriage pulled by Xu Sheng, and then remembered the wish he had made to Xu Sheng before, and directly said to Lu Jun shamelessly, this General Xu is the one who caught Lu Liang. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have found you. You have to remember to thank him. Saying that, Gan Ning solemnly stretched out his big paw and patted Lu Jun on the shoulder, and in an instant Lu Jun understood what it meant. This expression and this look were exactly the same as the expression when he didn't bring enough money when he changed boats for the last time, and when he paid on credit. Ha ha ha, Xingba, don't worry. Lu Jun helped his father, his younger brother, and his wife into the carriage and laughed, and then turned his head to look at Xu Sheng. General Xu thanked me before. At this time my Lu family has a lot of inconvenience. When I reach Mount Tai, my Lu family will give you a big gift. I don't dare, I don't dare. Xu Sheng waved his hand again and again. Although he didn't know what Lu Jun was talking about, he didn't have the slightest idea of receiving the gift, let alone in front of Chen Shi and Gan Ning. This is a matter of duty, not to mention that General Gan has already promoted my official position for this. In other words, there are more people than captains in the Tun Chief, but for the Navy, none of the 3 captains without ships of great power, not to mention that Gan Ning gave a guarantee to get a boat for Xu Sheng, and then get a bunch of small sailboards, so that it would be a small fleet, which was much more energetic than the captain. Take it. Gan Ning and Chen Shi pressed Xu Sheng's shoulder and said, without the old man Lu Kang, Chen Shi would not need to maintain that gentle and elegant gentleman's attitude. Oh, then congratulations to General Xu on his promotion. Xingba's promotion to your official position is Xingba's business, and our Lu family's return gift is the Lu family's own business. Lu Jun smiled and said, deciding to make some investment in Xu Sheng. It was obvious that Xu Sheng had already entered the eyes of Gan Ning and Chen Shi. After saying that, Lu Jun got into the carriage regardless of it, and Xu Sheng stood there silently, quite a feeling of pie falling from the sky, while the others looked at Xu Sheng with slight envy. For so long these people also recognized Xu Sheng's ability, although they were a little shocked by his promotion speed, but they did not do anything discordant. Gone, Wen Xiong, you probably don't know what the Lu family's so-called gift is. After Lu Jun got into the car, the army drove again, and Chen Shi rode to the side of this famous general who should have been a famous general of Wu and said with a smile, I really don't know this. The young man said embarrassedly, actually, I don't have too many gifts, but this kind of thing is from the wrong way, and I don't want to take over. Oh, so that's how it is. Chen Shi smiled, and his feelings for Xu Sheng rose a little. In fact, the gift Lu Jitsai said is the warship you have always wanted. Xingba made a wish to you, he can't fulfill it, but he understands Lu Jitsai's character, and he knows it very well, and the Lu family will take over all this when the time comes. Ha! Xu Sheng looked at Chen Shi with a strange expression. Military division. If you say so, in fact, our army is a warship without reserves? Do you think that with Xingba's personality, the battlefield with reserves will not be dragged out and used? Our warships are all newly built by the Lu family. You wait, when the Lu family goes to Donglai to rebuild the shipyard, the first ship built is yours. We have spent so much effort, and it is not unrelated to the technology mastered by the Lu family. Chen Shi sighed and said, and then stretched out his hand, do a good job, you will become an excellent naval general, I am optimistic about you. Thank you for the praise of the military division, and the event will strive to become an excellent naval general. Xu Sheng said solemnly, a new ship, a warship that may accompany me in the second half of my life, this is very good. When the time comes, go and see it in person, I hope it will be very satisfactory. Chapter 461 Li Yu's Zuzhu Conspiracy. Chen Shi didn't say anything more. The Lu family's gift should actually be to design a warship for Xu Sheng. Of course, if there is no Xu Sheng, this first warship will naturally be sent to Gan Ning. After all, after the shipyard is built in Donglai, Liu Bei's policy will be tilted. Naturally, the first ship is a ship to test the waters. Liu Bei provides materials. When the time comes, in addition to the Lu family's practice, there is also the meaning of favors in it. After all, the core technology of shipbuilding in this period is only owned by a few families, and the core craftsmen of shipbuilding are also monopolized for it. The Lu family is indispensable. The first ship is to show the Lu family's attention in front of other princes. You don't fight. Xingba, accelerate, go to Chaohu Lake as soon as possible. Our goal has been achieved. Withdraw to the Yangtze River, go down the river, and return to Mount Tai. We have no reason to continue fighting. Chen Shi ordered Gan Ning. At the same time, Jiang Qin had already led more than 5,000 Jiangxia naval forces down the Yangtze River, preparing to join Zhu Yu near Zhejiang, and then intercept Chen Shi and his party. Is that so? Li Yu of Sharpie looked at the group of submissive family heads standing in the government office, and waved his hand boredly to signal that they could get out, and the previous flying and domineering Zuzhu family had completely disappeared without a trace, and even Chen Deng couldn't help but be a little afraid in front of Li Yu. Ruthless, Li Yu's approach was too ruthless, but no one was unconvinced. Does Yuan Long still have something to report? Li Yu asked calmly as he put the military orders sent by Zhao Yun and Chen Dao on several tables. Not long ago, Liu Bei's documents had been sent to Zuzhu, transferring Zhao Yun and Chen Dao to the junction of Sharpie and Zhejiang. Listening to Chen Shi's news, once something went wrong, Zhao Yun was allowed to lead troops into Zhejiang for rescue. Yuzhou Line News. Sun Bofu transferred the Jiangxia Navy into the Yangtze River and went downstream, and by now it was almost about to enter the waters of the Lujiang River. Chen Deng lowered his head and did not dare to look at Li Yu. The kind of amazement that played with everyone in the palm of his hand shocked Chen Deng and made him even more afraid. Oh, so, is there any new news from Sichuan? Need our help or something else? Li Yu asked calmly. He also knew that he had played a little ruthlessly before, and the entire Zuzhu family almost saw blood. More importantly, the entire Zuzhu family actually didn't get anything, but they had a big grudge against each other. Chen Hu ordered us to patrol the area of Sharpie and Zhejiang, and if someone peeked, we could take it down directly. Chen Deng lowered his head and said, Yuan Long, do you also think that what I did before was a little ruthless? Ruthless methods can only subdue them, not make them sincerely submit, right? Li Yu said with a smile. Speaking of which, the strategy sent by Ju Shou and Shu Yu is a pit in itself, a pit that makes Zuzhu full of hidden dangers. But after Li Yu made a more ruthless extension of Ju Shou and Shu Yu's strategy, after repeated estimates, he made a more ruthless extension of Ju Shou and Shu Yu's strategy. Anyway, when Ju Shou and Shu Yu saw the result, they could only say that Li Yu was eager to perform, which might make Jia Shu, Guo and others suspicious or something. But this was in line with the incompetent identity of their pig teammates. In short, what Li Yu did was very unfavorable to Liu Bei. At least now 95% of the Zuzhu family is resentful of Liu Bei, especially when the latest transfer order is issued. The Zuzhu family's resentment towards Liu Bei reached its peak, but unfortunately, in view of Liu Bei's excessive strength, none of them were willing to stand up as a first bird, and at most they would rebel when they had the opportunity in the future. But ruthlessness also has its benefits. At least now no one dares to oppose what Li Yu is doing here. More cruel bloody rule than Dao Qian's final stage. Even moving is not allowed, so that this group of families who now have no chance to fight back dare to be angry and dare not speak, can only silently bear all this.
Yes. After hesitating repeatedly, Chen Deng said gloomily, I gave them a chance, so how about I give them another chance? Li Yuman said indifferently, I can allow local officials not to go to Qingju as officials, but they don't mix sand into the army. Chen Deng looked at Li Yu very puzzled. To this extent, Li Yu suddenly rose the benevolence of a woman, either killed all the families, including their Chen family, or the easiest to start with, don't do it, now it's done, can such a little favor be saved? Chen Deng felt that he couldn't understand Li Yu anymore. Li Yu's ruthless shot before, and his grasp of the opportunity made Chen Deng feel awe, but now this kind of woman's benevolence, this kind of self-righteousness, made Chen Deng a little doubtful whether the previous plan really came from the person in front of him. It seems that you don't know either, then that's it, you go and inform all the families, let them be at peace, I don't want to have a grudge against them. Hello everyone, I have a lot of good things, I'm so stiff now, it is not good for everyone. Li Yu tried his best to show a sincere smile and said to Chen Deng. Without waiting for Chen Deng to reply, Li Yu waved his hand and walked into the inner hall, leaving Chen Deng alone standing in the middle hall with a confused expression. Ju Shou, Shu Yu, I have done better than you think, and I have laid a solid foundation for you to fight Qingju when the time comes. As long as you fight Qingju, there will definitely be civil strife in Zuzhu, and I will respond to you. Li Yu thought with a smile on his face. But unfortunately, someone will soon go to report to Yuan Shu. All your plans have made a wedding dress for Yuan Shu, and Yuan Shu has been laid down by us a large number of chess pieces. This time the Zuzhu rebellion can finally make the interior of Zuzhu clear and clean, and transfer the civil strife to the fight against Yuan Shu. Li Yu silently planned the current situation, and he would also kill people with a knife. After this time, Zuzhu should have been completely consolidated, and all the schemes were designed by Ju Shou and Shu Yu, but there was an accident, and no one should doubt it. Li Yu swept around the nearby situation and was completely relieved. After this time, the internal voice was unified, and no one would hold back anymore, and the same infamy did not have to be memorized. Well, it's still a little bad, it's time to do some superficial articles next, at least to cover it up. I also make a little gesture, plant the seeds of hope for the family, and after going back to raise them, I can harvest them. Li Yu unconsciously turned to the angle of the harvesting family again. Forget it, don't think about these things, all that's left to do is to tell Ju Shou and the others about the current situation and continue to induce them. It's a pity, they are obviously intelligent, but they thought wrong from the beginning. Li Yu picked up the paper and pen from the side, with a mocking face, and at the same time rushed to tell Ju Shou what was happening now, and it was the best choice to continue to let them jump into the pit. Anyway, accidents are happening all the time. Chapter 462 The King's Road. Jia Shu, Guo, Liu Yi, Li Yu and others were originally good at taking the trick, the so-called strategic trickery. The basic meaning is to fight and support the war, based on plunder, abandon their own development, directly annex the four directions, defeat the four parties before the internal hidden dangers break out, and then cultivate and recuperate. This road is not impossible. For example, Cao Cao in history, Cao Cao in this life, from the root is all a trick, not that it is not good to take a trick, but to take a trick road fast enough, and take a tricky road, strategy and tactics cannot have any accidents, because the trick is fast, but there is no foundation. To put it bluntly, it is to compete with the sky. As long as you are fast enough, everything is no problem. As for Jioshu now, Guo, a voter, has been dragged back to the royal road line by Chen Shi, that is, the so-called high wall, extensive accumulation of grain. Step by step, the defeat of one or two battles will not have any impact on the overall situation. Even if there is an accidental rout, there will be no collapse. The advantage of the royal road is that the foundation is strong, and the advantage of the trick is that it is quick, but you can use the trick road at any time if you take the road of the king. As for the road of the king, it is impossible for you to take the road of the king if you do not subdue the four directions. The road of the royal road is getting wider and wider,
which is why Li Yu and others are only maintaining internal unity and rarely provoking externally. Because Chen Shi has opened the road of the royal road, they only need to maintain the situation. The gap between the princes of the four directions and Liu Bei will only get bigger and bigger, and in the end, only a general is needed to lead the troops, and wherever they pass, they will inevitably surrender. When the gap is really that high, what is needed is no longer a strategy, and this is the highest level of a strategist. Let you rack your brains. I punched myself, and you are dead. This is why Li Yu still plans to cut off all the disobedient families in Zhuzhou after thinking about it, because he wants to maintain stability. As for how frightened the remaining families would be, Li Yu did not take it to heart, although Li Yu did not understand Stockholm Syndrome. But when he was in Luoyang to cultivate loyal ministers to Dong Zhuo, Li Yu summed up an experience, when the enemy was so strong that you could only kneel. The little benefit of the other person's handout will also make you extremely grateful. Of course, Li Yu also knew that this kind of gain was not loyalty, but just a kind of obedience mixed with fear and awe. But as long as you have been strong and can only make him kneel, in fact, you can think that the other party's loyalty is full. As for whether it will cause any bad impression on the family, Li Yu's actions before and after Chen Shi's attitude towards the family, and he will not die if he does not die. I am in charge of my territory. It is the dragon that coils for me, and it is the tiger that nests for me. Of course, we will not deliberately find trouble with you, but if you mess around, it is natural for us to fish and enforce the law. However, due to the different styles of county magistrates in various places, some were beaten, some lost their heads, and the legal principle was just a favor. Who knows if you have touched the county magistrate's reverse scales? Different people do the same thing with different results, not to mention that you are different, and the people you meet are also different. This is the tragedy. The major families have basically summarized Chen Shi's overall attitude towards the family, and the attitude is not bad, just one requirement: to abide by the law. As for what will happen if you don't follow the regulations, from raiding your family and exterminating your family, to beating up and letting it go. In addition to looking at the regulations, you also have to look at the referee of the local county magistrate. This matter is tossed like this. In the end, as long as half of the families still exist, the other families basically can't say anything about Li Yu. The military power in troubled times is not something that anyone can touch. As far as the small families left in Zhuzhou now, the attention of Liu Bei's military power, no one can bear to sit in this position. After Chen Deng returned to his home, he bowed to Chen Ju. Father. Sit down, just our father and son are here, don't look at it. Chen Ju has aged more than 10 years compared to a few months ago, and he is now on crutches. Do you feel dissatisfied with Li Wenru's style, but you are a little afraid that he will swing the butcher knife at us? The rabbit is dead and the fox is sad. Chen Deng didn't say much. Alas, Yuanlong, you still need to sharpen for a while. I've been thinking about it at home for a few days. I'm afraid that this Li Wenru won't stay here in Zhuzhou for long, and the position of this Zhuzhou Mu will still be yours sooner or later. Chen Gui sighed, slightly disappointed with a clever Chen Deng. Li Wenru is too ruthless. I'm afraid that this Zhuzhou family won't be able to leave a few after he handles it. Except for those families who really live in seclusion and don't compete for power. How many can there be left in Zhuzhou after this time? I don't believe that those families have no resentment towards Li Wenru now, and before he came back, I thought he had risen to the benevolence of a woman, but now that I think about it, I'm afraid he is inducing those people. Chen Deng lowered his head and said with a slight fear, this is to destroy the Zhuzhou family. Liu Xuande put these people in Zhuzhou, and he had no intention of accepting the family. My son is confused. Chen Gui sighed and said, Yuanlong, you continue to follow Li Wenru, you can execute his orders. This Zhuzhou Chen family will need to fall into your hands sooner or later, and because of his health, he is no longer suitable to be the head of the Zhuzhou Chen family. How can my father say such a disgraceful thing? Chen Deng was stunned for a moment, staring at his father's face and said bitterly, the change of generations within the family is a law, and my son can inherit the position of the head of my family. Very fortunate, very fortunate. Chen Ju looked at his son and sighed. When he said this, Chen Ju couldn't help but think of the origin of his position as the head of the family, which was far less relaxed than Chen Deng now. The Chen family and Liu Xuande's Zhuzhou will need to fall on you sooner or later. Don't rise up with the slightest bad mind. Chen Zichuan, Zhou Wenhe, and others are all heroes, and Guan Yunchang, Zhong Ida, and others are peerless generals, and Liu Xuande himself has the grace to tolerate people. My Zhuzhou Chen family must stand behind Liu Xuande no matter what. Chen Gui had a plan to hand over the position of head of the family to Chen Deng now, so he couldn't help but tell him. Speaking of which, I admire Mi Zizhong. The Mi family was not as good as our Chen family at the beginning, and now Mi Zizhong's name is probably resounding all over the world. His vision is really good. You can have more contact with him in the future. After all, he is also from Zhuzhou, and we are old friends. Chen Ju looked at Chen Deng and sighed slightly. In addition to wisdom, a man's mind and vision are also equally important. Chen Deng listened silently to Chen Gui's education, and Chen Ju did not expect that his unintentional words would actually make Chen Deng guess Li Yu's strategy, and I have to say that Chen Deng is also a shrewd person. Li Wenru, you are powerful, you can still be like this, no wonder you are so indifferent, you are just stimulating the greed in other people's hearts, and everything after that is doomed. Chen Deng thought bitterly in his heart that he had already understood Li Yu's approach, and the Zhuzhu family was just the other party's toy. Chapter 463 When the young Lu Zun hit the enhanced version of Zhuge Liang. For Li Yu, Chen Deng has nothing to say. If it is really as he thinks, then this person's mind and ability can be described as the best in the world, and as far as the previous performance, although it is ruthless, but it is undeniable that his ability, if it is a fact that may appear after matching, Chen Deng only looks up to Li Yu. Pass it on? I always feel that this technique is somewhat impressive. Chen Deng couldn't help but think about Li Yu's origin. Just like when Chen Shi showed his amazing side, other families also thought about Chen Shi's origin first. After all, any genius was not born out of thin air. Even if he was a late bloomer, he would leave traces in the past, but Li Yu seemed to appear out of thin air. I heard that Li Wenru was a friend of Cai Boji, and Cai Zhaoji was indeed taken out of Chang'an by Li Wenru and placed in Mount Tai, and the other party did call Li Wenru his uncle, which means that there is no problem with his identity, and he was probably in seclusion somewhere before. Chen Deng sighed. The great Confucians of this era are a bit material, and the friends that the great Confucians can recognize will definitely have outstanding moral ability. In his opinion, Li Yu is like this. Recently, let's avoid Li Wenru. This person is a little too ruthless after all. Although in the end he transfers everything to others, he is almost spotless, but he is always a person who cannot escape the eye. Chen Deng thought silently, and finally decided to wait for these 2 days. On the other side, Gan Ning and his party had already left Chaohu Lake by boat, and during the period when Gan Ning and Chen Shi surrounded Lujiang City, Tai Shitsi basically had no major events except for strangling the Chaohu water thieves, who were already very rare. Zhuge Liang, on the other hand, thought about the current situation in a simple way, and with Chen Shi's reminder, Zhuge Liang easily understood what they would encounter with a map. Lujiang and Jiangxia were simply next to each other, okay? The strongest under Sun Ce is naturally the Jiangxia Navy, and Jiangxia to Lujiang is simply down the river, which means that it is not difficult for Sun Ce to transfer the Jiangxia Navy to help, and the speed of going down the river is guaranteed, and the combat effectiveness is also guaranteed. Because of this, Zhuge Liang almost understood that if they were not fast enough, they would be very likely to encounter a complete Jiangxia naval army. If the speed is fast, it is inevitable to fight with the vanguard of the Jiangxia Navy in the Yangtze River. In short, out of Chaohu Lake. The Battle of the Yangtze River is inevitable. Of course, Zhuge Liang did not think about the actual number of the Jiangxia Navy. In his opinion, even if the entire Jiangxia Navy was stronger than Gan Ning's naval corps, it could not be too outrageous. After all, Liu Xuande delegated power to Gan Ning's navy, and Yuan Shu would never do such a thing. That's the difference. It's a pity that Zhuge Liang didn't expect Zhu Yu to be so bold. While collecting the *** water bandits in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River, while reporting to the Yangtze River because of the death of Huang Zhu, many Jingzhou naval forces have become water bandits, and the number of water bandits in the Yangtze River has increased, and it is necessary to increase the garrison force to fight against the bandits, and the Yangtze River is so big. It is not so easy for Zhu Yu to defeat the water bandits, at least in the eyes of Li Feng and others. In this way, Zhu Yu killed both black and white. After a long time, Zhu Yu subdued the ** water bandits. While strengthening the rule of the navy under his command, he was desperately managing Jiangxia County and the Yangtze River waterway, and he was really not good and robbed the river on the river. In short, he barely fed the entire navy, which means that Sun Ce's hidden strength was far more than Zhuge Liang knew. As for Chen Shi's consistent thinking from a historical perspective and current thinking, and then comparing the current situation, although he guessed that Sun Ce might not be weak, he did not think that Zhu Yu could hoard such a strong force, and borrowing chickens and eggs to this extent is also a kind of state. Although Chen Shi knew that Sun Ce had accumulated considerable strength, he was not worried that Zhu Yu would send more than 8,000 troops. As for the reason is very simple. Yuan Shu is still alive, Sun Ce is still under Yuan Shu's command. Even if Zhu Yu has strength, he can't put it on the surface, at least not until Sun Ce is independent. Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang, who was still thinking, what's wrong, do you feel pressure from Lu Boyan? Communicate with him well, and the two of you will spend less time together in the future. Whenever he thought that Zhuge Liang and Lu Zun might be officials in the same dynasty, Chen Shi had an inexplicable smile. After all, in the previous life, Lu Zun was regarded as destroying Zhuge Liang's hope in his life. If it weren't for the Battle of Yiling to abolish the second-generation elites of Shu, plus the vast majority of veterans, Zhuge Liang's northern expedition would not be so difficult. It's nothing, he's okay, but if there are no accidents, it's impossible to catch up with me. Zhuge Liang turned his head and raised his eyebrows. Lu Xun's excellent deeds were deeply touched by Zhuge Liang, who was almost the same age as him, and he was not much different from him. But unfortunately, as Zhuge Liang said, it was impossible to catch up if nothing else. Hey, you guy, this is a playmate for you. Take good care of him. The other party is quite arrogant, and he will cut him when he has the opportunity. Chen Shi did not have any scruples to fan Zhuge Liang and light a ghost fire, creating a conflict between the two, so he didn't mind the two super geniuses fighting each other. For Chen Shi, this was interesting. Boring. Zhuge Liang said calmly, his thinking concept is quite mature. He is not the kind of unlucky guy who was abused by Guozhou and needs to find a sense of existence in other geniuses. At first, Zhuge Liang was still a little irritable with Fa Zheng, but later he knew the truth of the matter and looked at Fa Zheng's eyes with a touch of pity, which made Fa Zheng even more irritable, and then Fa Zheng went to the state of Qi and proved himself with his political achievements. It's a bit energetic, don't be so mature. You see that Lu Boyan has not encountered great changes on the road of life like you, come and laugh at one. Chen Shi said with a hippie smile. It didn't look like even Zhuge Liang was mature. He just encountered a big change. I was lost on the road of life when I read your books, and then my family was gone. Zhuge Liang's calm narration almost choked Chen Shi to death. Bo Yang, I'll give you a book of the art of war. Chen Shi was choked to death, and after reacting, he grabbed the edge of the boat with both hands, leaned back, and roared towards the cabin. No, I'll read this one enough. Lu Xun, who was squatting at the door of the cabin, said without raising his head. It's not that Lu Xun doesn't want Chen Shi's Art of War book, but he has seen Zhuge Liang's power, and he doesn't want to provoke, and he understands astronomy, geography, and the art of war strategy is enough. So he tells a story, and the 5 ideas summarized are actually contradictory to each other, and what is even more cruel is that they can all be explained. Is this to make his brain explode? Obviously Zhuge Liang is not a year older than him. Lu Xun had already begun to doubt whether he was a genius. Zhuge Liang's indifferent expression looking at the sky, the lonely melancholy of a master, Lu Xun felt deeply pressured. Chapter 464 Worship you as a teacher. Hey, why do I feel like Bo Yang has ravaged you? Chen Shi turned his head to look at Zhuge Liang with an indifferent expression and asked, always feeling that Zhuge Liang had a somewhat distracted expression now, and he was indifferent when others found out. I was looking at the general idea outside the cabin, and he also came to see it, and as a result, I read this book dozens of times, and I almost understood the essentials, not so much as reading it, but he said I didn't understand, and then we chatted for a while and he became like this. Zhuge Liang said indifferently, he had already given that book to Lu Xun, the kind of book that had a lot of nonsense in the middle, but had enough essence. Zhuge Liang naturally knew who wrote it. Oh, let me think about what I wrote in that book. Chen Shi looked at the sky and thought about what his nominal book was written in the name of the universe, and then said, that book is quite suitable for you, but he shouldn't be suitable. Zhuge Liang frowned when he heard this, and he couldn't remember the content of the book he wrote. If it weren't for the fact that this book was really exquisite, Zhuge Liang would want to be the author. His fit too. Zhuge Liang glanced at Chen Shi and said, at least when I was talking to him at that time, he had his own ideas about the art of war strategy, although he was very naive and immature, but after all, it was his own perception and very thoughtful. On the other side, although Lu Xun was carefully reading the pirated version of the book from Zhuge Liang's hand, he couldn't help but be distracted when Chen Shi came over, listening to the conversation between Zhuge Liang and Chen Shi with his ears up. He is suitable for the law, and you are suitable for the slightest. You should learn how to grasp the general trend of the world, how to know success or failure, and how to compete for the championship. How to turn things around. Chen Shi frowned and said, he felt that he had raised Zhuge Liang crookedly. My book should be about those. You don't know the book you wrote yourself. Zhuge Liang asked helplessly. It's really a pity that you dare to write it. I wrote a lot, who remembers it so clearly, and the title of the book was just found a suitable one and pressed it. Chen Shi said without mind. Zhuge Liang smiled bitterly and nodded. He didn't use honorific titles anymore. Your soldier is indeed writing about how to win the general trend of the world, and how to know the gains and losses of success or failure. How to chase the deer to win the championship, but your habit of writing things is off topic as you write, and then you start to talk about civil affairs. In short, this book is very good. Oh, that's fine. You fit this type, I remember correctly. Chen Shi nodded and said, he remembered that he didn't read books to Zhuge Liang. Winning the general trend of the world, chasing deer to win the throne, and turning things around, these should be what Sichuan is best at. Zhuge Liang thought for a while and said, Sichuan neglects to grasp the details, or it should be said that he is too lazy to do that kind of meticulous thing. A lot of things are a general idea. Ha ha ha. Chen Shi laughed dryly. He was really not good at doing things that were too detailed. As for the so-called general trend of the world, it seems that he is really the best at it. There is no way, from the beginning of the general trend to grasp, to now it has barely been able to suppress the 4 directions and let the situation go in the direction he planned.
So I want to learn what you do best.
Zhuge Liang smiled and said, so I like that book very much, and I feel that what you are good at is also what I should master the most, and it is also what I am most interested in. When he said this, Zhuge Liang stared at Chen Shi, and there was a kind of hope between his eyebrows and eyes. Chen Shi's grasp of the general trend made Zhuge Liang envious, and he felt dissatisfied with Chen Shi's lazy behavior. In Zhuge Liang's view, Chen Shi obviously had countless means, but he neglected to use them because he thought it was too troublesome.
I want to learn too. Lu Xun jumped over and said, I don't even know how to teach.
Chen Shi yawned and said, there is no nonsense this time, I really don't know how to teach.
I'll just follow you, I'll learn it myself.
Zhuge Liang said calmly, I have always been self-taught, and I don't know where I will ask you, and I will do it after a long time. Bo Yang, you are probably not suitable for learning this kind of thing. Kongming is meticulous, the practice is slightly better, your words are better to learn the method or technique, you each have your own victory, Kongming is too advantageous in thinking. Chen Shi turned his head to look at Lu Xun and said, saying that Lu Kang didn't know why he still gave Lu Xun the word Boyon, which was really magical, but if he was crowned, he still had to wait until Mount Tai.
I want to learn. Lu Xun looked at Chen Shi with resolute eyes and said, this is not the main point of your intelligence.
Chen Shi frowned and said, his biggest advantage is that he knows the development direction of this group of people and will not let them get twice the result with half the effort.
I want to learn.
Lu Xun glanced at Zhuge Liang, who looked calm, and said, he has learned everything, if I don't learn, the gap will definitely get bigger and bigger.
Let him learn. Zhuge Liang said calmly. He's different from you.
Chen Shi said dissatisfiedly, why is this little kid so ignorant? Zhuge Liang is still shouting and cheering next to him, seeing Lu Xun looking at him with a hopeful face. Chen Shi also has a little headache. After all, if Lu Xun is directly taken away, I am afraid that it will be difficult to get along with in the future, and the stubborn child is so troublesome. Diligence can make up for clumsiness. 100 drops of sweat are not as good as a little talent. The crane stands on the snow, the fool sees the crane, the wise see the snow, and the Zen sees the white.
Zhuge Liang glanced at Chen Shi meaningfully and said to himself.
Lu Xun, who didn't know why, first glanced at the other party dissatisfied when he heard Zhuge Liang's words, and then stared at Chen Shi.
Okay, you can follow me. Chen Shi sighed and said.
Zhuge Liang's meaning Chen Shi understands that different people will get different results when they understand the same thing, and Zhuge Liang's meaning is that since Chen Shi is so idle, a story can explain a bunch of conflicting meanings. What's the problem with this? The big deal is to explain to him Zhuge Liang the meaning that is in line with Zhuge Liang's heart, and explain to Lu Xun the meaning that is in line with Lu Xun's beliefs. Anyway, the two of them understand that the things they understand must be different, both are right, and it is enough to teach separately when teaching.
Thank you, teacher.
Lu Xun immediately knelt down and bowed to Chen Shi for the first time, until Chen Shi, who looked embarrassed, stretched out his hand to help him up. Zhuge Liang squinted at Lu Xun, then turned his head and hesitated a little, and finally sighed and waved his hand. Suddenly I found that I took advantage of you a lot, otherwise I would have worshipped you as a teacher.
Don't.
Chen Shi hurriedly stopped Zhuge Liang. Don't make trouble, I'm big enough. Bo Yang is that I didn't react. If you make trouble again, I will really have a headache. Alas, Bo Yang, why do you want to worship me as a teacher? Chapter 465. There are too many unscientific things.
Because master, you are better than him. Lu Xun pointed at Zhuge Liang and said.
Chen Shi looked at the sky speechlessly. This reason is really realistic enough, but this is in line with Lu Xun's situation. This goods are a realistic school. Zhuge Liang couldn't help but sigh. This bare child. Zhuge Liang suddenly felt that he was a little naive.
That's a good reason.
Chen Shi patted Lu Xun on the shoulder and said, let me tell you what I can do first. Astronomy, geography, strange gates, yin and yang, military posture, formations, rewards and punishments, flags and drums, and camping. Chen Shi said a lot. Lu Xun's eyes became brighter and brighter, and Zhuge Liang couldn't help but turn his head to look at the sky. He already knew what Chen Shi was going to say. The last time he was ecstatic to listen, but he came with a big gasp, almost choking Zhuge Liang to death.
I basically don't. These, Chen Shi said with a dry smile.
Lu Xun's whole body froze directly, and his face twitched continuously. Alas, there is no mistake in the novel Zhuge Liang sighed on the side. Those are all trails. Sichuan is not invincible, he just bothers to talk about it. You can know how many achievements he has.
Zhuge Liang comforted. Then what should I learn from you?
Lu Xun tried his best to calm down. He was already frightened by Chen Shi's unreliability. in this era of respecting teachers, the status of the master is very high, and the master also needs to maintain his identity in front of his apprentices. It is obvious that Chen Shi's previous approach is not in line with the identity of the master. You go to your father and your grandfather first to see if they allow you to worship me as a teacher. Chen Shi patted Lu Zun and said, in this era, if you really want to apprentice, it is not so casual. At least the parents want to approve. I agreed. Lu Jun said with a smile, as for the apprenticeship banquet, it will not be less after our Lu family is settled. In that case, Lu Zun, are you willing to worship me as a teacher? Chen Shi's hippie smiling expression was retracted, and he put on a serious look. There is no way that you must conform to the identity of this era in this era. Disciple Lu Zun pays respects to master. Lu Zun knelt on the deck and solemnly bowed to Chen Shi-san. Looking back, I think about what to teach you. After all, there are many things that I haven't learned well, they are all a rough idea, and you still need to understand it yourself. Chen Shi said to himself. And Zhuge Liang also nodded repeatedly on the side. Many of the good things in Chen Shi's hands seemed to him to be a framework that needed to be supplemented. I will educate you well, Kong Ming. You can also help take care of it. Chen Shi yawned and said, didn't you cheat a lot of books from Cai Zhaoji? Those books that you can also instill in Bo Yang, those books are very good. It is said that the more Chen Shi knew Cai Zhaoji, the more his father felt that Cai Yong was a character. How he collected so many books, Chen Shi still didn't figure it out. But Chen Shi determined that those books were going to pile up a famous minister. It is really not difficult for a famous general or emperor, as long as you teach it well. Well, Ci has also been dictating the books he has read before. In fact, I'm quite strange about you and Ci. One is that it is theoretically impossible to know so much, and the other is theoretically impossible to remember so much. Zhuge Liang nodded, and then added something that he had always been strange. This is probably a matter of talent. Chen Shi thought for a long time and then said, but it's right to think about it. He knows a lot because of 2,000 years of knowledge accumulation. Experience is greater than wisdom, and Cai Zhaoji's kind is obviously unscientific. She's only 19 years old, right? According to what she said before, she has read all the books in Dongguan, and she has memorized them all. This guy is already equivalent to a mobile library. Zhuge Liang skimmed dissatisfied, but didn't say anything. After all, with Cai Wenji's knowledge, if he was born as a man, he might not be able to become a great Confucian. Bo Yang, you read the book with Kong Ming first. He has always carried a lot of books. You read them first. Ask him if you don't understand, he will explain it to you. Chen Shi turned his head to Lu Zun and said, he was still a little unused to suddenly changing his identity, and such a good seedling couldn't grow crookedly. Okay. Lu Zun looked at Chen Shi, then at Zhuge Liang, and finally said with a long voice, but it was obvious that he was a little dissatisfied with Chen Shi's arrangement, but due to the teacher's identity, he was still well-behaved and obedient. Then if I have a problem, he won't either? Lu Zun pretended to look at Chen Shi innocently with a cute expression and asked. He was hit by Zhuge Liang before, and the child's personality naturally made him a little reluctant to contact Zhuge Liang. Generally speaking, he can basically answer the questions you ask that are not very nonsense, and even if he can't answer, he can give solutions. Except for experience, the current Kong Ming is no longer afraid of anyone in the world. Chen Shi thought about Zhuge Liang's situation. As long as Lu Zun didn't ask how many stars in the sky, they were purely difficult questions. Zhuge Liang would have his own opinion even if he couldn't answer it. Really? Lu Zun had an expression of disbelief, and involuntarily glanced sideways at Zhuge Liang, who was not frightened, and couldn't help but believe 3 points. Well, you follow him first, ask him if there is anything you can't do, he will explain it to you, and he won't bring the slightest feeling, he won't tell you the conclusion directly, he will give you hints to make you think about the conclusion. Chen Shi turned his head to look at Zhuge Liang, and Zhuge Liang frowned slightly, which was much more difficult than giving an answer directly, but he didn't say anything. The more Lu Zun listened, the more uncomfortable it became. Is there such a big gap between himself and the other party? Obviously Zhuge Liang is not 2 years older than him. How can he be so strong? This is not scientific at all. No problem. Zhuge Liang thought for a while and then said, in his opinion, this was just Chen Shi's test for him. That's fine. You can see what he likes first. Chen Shi told him twice, looking back to see what he could teach Lu Zun. After all, the other party is a celebrity, and as a master, it is really a bit embarrassing not to take out a little dry goods. No matter how to bring a trumpet, you have to raise it well, you can't grow worse than the wild. After all, Lu Zun's growth environment in history is really average. Okay. Zhuge Liang's expression basically did not change, he was still indifferent and lonely, imitating the Buddhist guide Lu Zun, which seemed to him to be no difficulty. You must know that what Chen Shi said was to teach Lu Zun what he was best at and what he liked, and Zhuge Liang took it so indifferently, and suddenly Lu Xun's mood became even worse, and Zhuge Liang actually took over the matter with an indifferent expression. Zhuge Kongming, if I don't make you look good, I won't call you Lu Xun. I don't believe that you are good at what I am best at, and you are also proficient in my favorite knowledge. I don't believe it. You can really be better than me in everything. Lu Xun lowered his head and secretly shouted in his heart, ready to try all aspects when the time comes, so that he can see Zhuge Liang. Chapter 466 The Celestial Phenomena Have Changed. Chen Shi may ignore Lu Xun's thoughts, but Zhuge Liang, who has been in contact with Lu Xun and is famous for his meticulous thoughts, will naturally not be in this situation. But even if Zhuge Liang guesses Lu Xun's thoughts, he has no intention of refusing at all. Lu Xun is really too tender for Zhuge Liang now, even if Lu Xun's best strategy of war is impossible to compete with Zhuge Liang. Bo Yang, come with me with a general idea of the universe and do a test to let me understand your current level. Zhuge Liang walked over in front of Lu Xun with a calm face, and said in an indifferent voice, leaving only an arrogant back for Lu Xun. Lu Xun stared at Zhuge Liang fiercely. This indifferent look of almost nothing was difficult to see, so that the fighting spirit in Lu Xun's chest burned wildly. Lu Xun saw such a nasty character for the first time in so many years. Especially the other party did not do any disgusting actions, and there was no faux pas in the slightest, but I don't know why Lu Xun looked at Zhuge Liang extremely unpleasantly. HMH, when I finish learning your things, I will walk in front of you like this. Lu Xun was dissatisfied and followed with the book. Xingba, GCAI. Chen Shi asked Gan Ning and Lu Jun curiously. Zunna will be handed over to Chen Hu to teach. Lu Jun smiled and said, I remember that Chen Hu once made it clear in his letters that he was no less than Fa Xiaoji. Lu Jun is not very old, and he has a good relationship with Gan Ning, so he is familiar with Chen Shi as soon as he comes and goes, and he is not too formal. Brother GCAI, you can rest assured about this. Chen Shi smiled and said, since I have said that I am not inferior to Fa Xiaoji, then I will teach like this. This Zhuge Kongming is not simple. Lu Jun thought of the gentle and elegant person in front of him. The indifferent Zhuge Liang couldn't help but praise. There is only one Zhuge Liang in the world. Gan Ning smiled and said, it was okay before, but you will find out if you really get along with him for a while. You can't see him as an ordinary teenager at all. He is very powerful. As Zichuan said, what he lacks is only experience, not ability. Well, that's true, and you'll understand after staying with him for a long time that you're not an ordinary teenager. If anyone in the world can do nothing wrong, I'm afraid that person is the first choice. Chen Shi nodded in recognition of Gan Ning's evaluation, but did not notice the clear look in Gan Ning's eyes. Lu Jun was dumbfounded. He just admired Zhuge Liang's indifference, but he didn't expect Chen Shi to give such a high evaluation. Xingba, we have news about the speedboat you sent. Chen Shi did not shy away from Lu Jun and asked directly. Zuzhu has a response, but it can only be used as a precaution. Jingxiang's navy has not yet arrived. We shouldn't have to contact them if we were faster, but I suggest that we still fight with them, and if we want to escape, they haven't caught up now, it's meaningless. Gan Ning informed Chen Shi of the latest situation. Z went in person. Chen Shi frowned and asked. Yes, I have already connected with Zilong and Uncle Ji. Originally Zilong was going to come over, but was persuaded by Z to go back. Gan Ning nodded and said, speed up. Kill the Yangtze River as fast as possible. After that, he went down the river, although he didn't know how Juyu did it. But he should have run in front of us and waited to intercept us. Chen Shi sighed and said, the biggest problem with the Yangtze River waterway is complexity, although I don't understand how Juyu did it, but Chen Shi dares to guarantee that Juyu is definitely waiting in the waters of Zhejiang, because it is too fake to say that the Jiangxia Navy is far away. It is difficult to catch up with them, Chen Shixin. But it is absolutely impossible to say that the Jiangxia Navy in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River has not yet been shadowed. Gan Ning is not a fool, but he didn't go around the corner for a while, and Chen Shi understood in an instant. You actually dare to give me yin. I am Gan Xingba in the Yangtze River water battle. I am not afraid of anyone, just fight. Who is afraid of whom? I'll blow some wind and let the speed of the ship rise. Since they are fast, they must be unprepared, so hurry over and defeat them. Chen Shi thought for a while and said, and then directly started to change the celestial phenomena. By the way, you ordered people to go to the lower reaches of the Zhejiang River to investigate whether there is a fleet gathering below. Okay, I'll send someone there. Gan Ning also understood the urgency of the matter, and did not say anything else, and nodded directly. Gan Ning bowed to Lu Juni, and then walked to the other end of the boat, when Xiong, led by Yu, lead 50 people to quickly disguise themselves as ships to explore the lower reaches of the Yangtze River in the Zhejiang area. If there is a fleet gathering, you let others come back. You quickly rush to the mouth of the Yangtze River to wait for Ganlan and his party. I'm afraid this battle will not be simple.
Hey.
Although Xu Sheng didn't understand why Cabbage could come back in a short time, he didn't say anything else and nodded directly. Lu Jun's first feeling when he saw Chen Shi's scene was dumbfounded, but as this smooth-sailing fleet took longer and longer, Lu Jun understood Chen Shi's horror for the first time. First of all, this mental capacity does not seem to be what human beings should have, let alone a situation like Chen Shi. In fact, Chen Shi is also quite strange now. It seems that any spell that consumes pure mental energy seems to be floating clouds for him, and even this kind of unreasonable action is a heavy lift for him, and what is even more strange is that Chen Shi carefully sorted out his mental capacity, but found that there were not as many as he thought, and it seemed that he was only 20% more than Zhuge Liang. Although the spiritual amount that is 20% more than Zhuge Liang is enough to be said to be very huge, compared with the series of spiritual spells he used, it seems to be very unreasonable. At least this little mental amount compared to the spiritual spells he cast is at most a fraction of it. But fortunately, Chen Shi is not the kind of character who gets to the bottom of the matter, and he didn't think about it anymore. Anyway, this is a good thing. At least for him Chen Shi is indeed a good thing. Forget it, even if it's a try. See how much energy I have. Chen Shi made a move again, and slowly began to push the celestial phenomena, not directly changing, but began to gradually affect the celestial phenomena. According to this speed, when we arrived in Zhejiang, the celestial phenomena will naturally appear in fog. This kind of natural celestial phenomena, I don't believe you can still see it.
What's wrong with Gongjin?
Sun Ce asked puzzled, and Ju Yu, who suddenly looked up at the sky, said, The celestial phenomena have changed, but I always feel that something is wrong. Pang Tong said, Originally, it was supposed to be sunny the day after tomorrow, but now it seems to have become foggy, and the coverage is very large, and sure enough, there are unforeseen storms in the sky. It's not that there are unforeseen circumstances, this is man-made. Ju Yu frowned and said, I'm afraid Chen Zichuan has already guessed our actions. Is there a problem? No, I shouldn't have missed the slightest point. Who knows? Not to mention whether this celestial change was Chen Zichuan's move, even if it was, maybe it was just a temptation. Pang Tong shook his head and said incredulously, Forget it, don't think about it yet. Hurry to Zhejiang. Ju Yu shook his head, not wanting to argue with Pang Tong about this kind of thing. Chapter 467 Unconscious Crushing and Beating. Lu Xun looked at Zhuge Liang bitterly. The boy in front of him, who was not 2 years older than him, seemed to really have a crushing advantage over him intellectually. He had asked all the questions he could ask. Zhuge Liang also gave inspiration to all of them, and when Lu Xun was even more uncomfortable, Zhuge Liang's indifferent expression did not change at all. No matter what question Lu Xun asked, Zhuge Liang was dead. What's the problem? Zhuge Liang calmly put down Zheyanmo's Weiliaozi and looked at Lu Xun, who had been staring at him, and asked, not because of distraction, but because Zhuge Liang's mind was not in the book, and the questions Lu Xun asked were also very inspiring to Zhuge Liang, and Zhuge Liang had read this book many times.
How can you know everything? Lu Xun said through gritted teeth.
No, quite the opposite. There are many things I don't know. Zhuge Liang looked at Lu Xun with deep eyes, his expression still indifferent.
Obviously, you can answer anything I ask.
Lu Xun looked at Zhuge Liang francely. The child's personality had completely overwhelmed his usual maturity and reason.
That's because your question is too simple.
Zhuge Liang's pragmatic words dealt a fatal blow to Lu Xun. Arithmetic, Gewu, you seem to be very talented, but although I am not good at this, but in terms of its facts, you are far behind. When he said this, Zhuge Liang's eyes couldn't help but be a little empty. Chen Shi told him that they were famous masters, also known as grids, and occasionally called physics things, that was called the Book of Heaven. As for the so-called higher mathematics, the higher ones were boundless, at least for Zhuge Liang didn't understand them at all. After that, Zhuge Liang understood that he might not have much talent in this area. Lu Xun covered his heart, and he spent a lot of effort on the arithmetic and grid given to him by his grandfather Professor Lu Kang to surpass his grandfather and the invited teachers, but he was hit hard by Zhuge Liang.
Regarding the main bookkeeping, your talent is also good.
Zhuge Liang continued to do his own evaluation. He also learned like Chen Shi, first a comprehensive evaluation of the newcomer, and then educated. Zhuge Liang looked sideways outside the cabin, and when it came to accounting, he couldn't help but think of Liu Yi and Chen Shi, the two demons, who were the real masters of accounting. Liu Yi occasionally works part-time to make false accounts. What's even more excessive is that Chen Shi saw it at a glance and threw it to Zhuge Liang, asking Zhuge Liang to point out that there was a problem in the false account, and Zhuge Liang couldn't find the problem the previous day at the beginning.
After that, Chen Shi made a mess.
Of course, Zhuge Liang also knew that Liu Yi was really going to be deceitful, and it was difficult for him to see it, but that kind of situation,
Chen Shi will find out at the end of the year. But it's just good. Fraud is not level enough.
Before Lu Xun could raise his interest a little, Zhuge Liang gave another blow. At least let me not see it at a glance. I gave you an account for you to fake casually, and you actually made it so fake. Zhuge Liang's words were quite helpless, thinking about the group of people he met, from Lu Su to Fa Zhang. Although they didn't often make accounts, they had to take action. Zhuge Liang is difficult to find out in a short period of time. At least there is nothing like this that can be seen at a glance. Lu Xun's head couldn't help but lower his head. Zhuge Liang saw at a glance that there was a problem there, and then immediately pointed out all the places of fraud. Lu Xun was indeed shocked, and then he wrote an account for Zhuge Liang to cheat, but Lu Xun still hasn't found out that there is a problem there. Then there is political strategy, military and political SOSO. The level of civil affairs is average, and Fa Xiaoji knows how to adapt to local conditions, but you don't even know this. Zhuge Liang looked at Lu Xun speechlessly. To be honest, Zhuge Liang now really feels that Chen Shi is a bit of a fuss. Fa Jing hangs around every day, does not sleep until about Chen in the morning, and never gets up at about Chen, and does not have much time to study government affairs every day. Fa Xiaoji is the Prime Minister of Qi, and he is also a famous intellectual person in the world. Lu Xun said in a low voice, but he was still very happy that Zhuge Liang compared Fa Zheng with him, although he lost, but it was not shameful to lose to that kind of world-renowned, even unique role. Although he was defeated, it was still glorious. When you go to Mount Tai, I will remember to bring this to Fa Xiaoji. He will probably be very happy. Talking about military politics, compared to civil affairs only knows how to move rigidly. Your military formation also knows how to be flexible. I'm strange that your military and political affairs know to be flexible. Why don't you know civil affairs? These two bypasses should be known. Zhuge Liang stroked his forehead, feeling that he was hurt by Lu Xun's elm head. Lu Xun buried his head deeper, and Zhuge Liang's words made him feel ashamed. The military and political affairs will give you a barely qualified for your youth, although the direction of adaptation is equivalent to looking for death, but there is progress with adaptation, and you still have room for improvement. Zhuge Liang sighed and said. Lu Xun, who was kneeling in front of Zhuge Liang, was about to cry, and his best military strategy was barely qualified, although he was indeed slapped to death by Zhuge Liang, but he was really too sad. Besides, Famine, this item has not given you 0 points. For the sake of your youth and ignorance, I will find you a book about Fugua for you to see. Zhuge Liang sighed and said, no matter how much you need to learn about the rich country, if you can't learn anything else, at least teach me the macroeconomic regulation in political economy, so don't let you collapse the entire rule in the end. Lu Xun lowered his head. He really didn't know what to say in this regard. He had never been in contact with it at all. As for what Zhuge Liang said, he had never heard it. He only knew that Zhuge Liang had exploded his lofty knowledge several times. Come down and train again. Okay, this can be revealed. You haven't been in contact, camped, never touched, marched, never touched. Zhuge Liang's face blushed every time he said a Lu Xun, and for the first time he knew that he had so many things that he had never touched at all. Code, intelligence. Okay, you may have come into contact with this, but it's too simple, and it's really meaningless to crack something that can be cracked at a glance. Zhuge Liang's indifferent expression made Lu Xun unable to raise his head anymore. Thinking that Zhuge Liang couldn't see it, in order to express the depression in his chest, Lu Xun directly wrote as Zhuge Liang is a fool with a code, but the facts told Lu Xun that he was too tender with Zhuge Liang than him, and the other party understood the meaning at a glance, and then read it with an indifferent expression, and even his face did not change. Overall, you have to learn too much. Start with the basics. Zhuge Liang looked at Lu Xun, whose head was almost up to his thigh, and shook his head silently. By the way, if you can't master it as soon as possible, I will ask Sichuan to resign and let someone teach you, so you'd better work harder. At least let me understand why Sichuan values you. Chapter 468 Zhu Gongjin. You are ruthless enough. Zhuge Liang didn't care at all what kind of shadow he would leave on Lu Xun if he did this. After all, he had also experienced such a thing as an ability test, and compared with this low-level test conducted by him, he had experienced a test jointly held by Chen Shi, led by Lu Su, Liu Yi, Jioshu, Li Yu, Man Chong, Mi Zhu and a group of people. Of course, Guizhou was not there in that test, so it was Fa Zheng who replaced Guizhou. Zhuge Liang felt that he was gone every time he thought of that test. He was completely stressed about what the test was. Can you imagine what shadow you will cause when such a group of people test the top figures in the world with what they are best at? However, after that time, Zhuge Liang had a comprehensive understanding of his strengths and weaknesses, and also had a certain understanding of the people who tested him at that time, and because of this, Zhuge Liang was actually quite satisfied with that test, except for being deeply embarrassed by the situation where he didn't know at that time. There was nothing else. It's okay. At least one passed. Zhuge Liang said calmly, the subset of classics and history will not be tested. It is estimated that you will not be bad at this kind of thing, and you can do it without forgetting it. Barely able to. Lu Xun couldn't help but feel blushing when he heard Zhuge Liang's sentence that at least one passed, and then heard Zhuge Liang's words and replied in a low voice, "Today he was hit."
That's good.
Zhuge Liang nodded. "Read the book first. As long as you have an impression of the things you don't like to learn, I'll lay the foundation for you when I go back. Well, you know your current situation."
Got it. Lu Xun lowered his head and said in a depressed mood, "If you know, then learn slowly, and soon you will be able to do it." Zhuge Liang saw that Lu Xun was in a somewhat depressed mood. So he kindly comforted him twice, but Lu Xun had almost no reaction. Zhuge Liang glanced at Lu Xun and didn't say anything more, and he was hit. "I wasn't like this when I was tested by that group of people. As for no, this psychological quality is not up to par." Chen Shi naturally didn't know that Lu Xun was now being whipped by his soul, which basically meant that he was cleaned up by Zhuge Liang in various ways, and when he cleaned up his young heart, there was already a shadow in his young mind, and it was estimated that he would not jump in front of Zhuge Liang in the short term. After the change of heaven in advance, the spiritual volume that had been rich finally paused, although it was still running after that. But relying on that pause, Chen Shi can be regarded as having a certain understanding of his spiritual total, which is no longer a huge sentence that can be explained clearly. Xingba.
When we arrived in the Yangtze River, we encountered Sun Ce's ships. Don't stay here, have a little strength to use, and more importantly, don't stop. I'm worried that the other party wants to surround us.
Chen Shi frowned and said, what Chen Shi is most worried about now is that Ju Yu is also stuck in time. If they enter the Yangtze River and face Sun Tzujuan, who doesn't know how to get to the lower reaches of the Yangtze River, and the Jiangxia Navy attacked behind him, there was a blockade of the enemy in front and a pursuit behind. Even if Chen Shi believed that Gan Ning's extraordinary ability, he would never think about escaping without damage in that situation. Jiangxia Navy.
Gan Ning frowned and said, this is indeed a trouble, but the overall strength of the Jiangxia Navy will not change. They only have so many soldiers. If we divide too many paths, it is very likely that we will seize the opportunity to annihilate one or two of them.
I hope so.
Chen Shi nodded, and felt that he was a little overly worried. After all, Ju Yu's troops were limited and it was impossible to mess around. While there is still a little time now, I'll relax, get me a boom, and I'll fish and relax. Chen Shi was a little distracted with the fishing rod. In fact, since he found out that Ju Yu's navy appeared in a different place, he felt that things had deviated, but until now he still hadn't noticed the essence of the problem. Looking at the boat on the edge of the reeds on the riverbank, Chen Shi felt that he seemed to have missed something, and the fishing rod in his hand couldn't help but tighten, and his brows furrowed.
Zichuan, what are you thinking?
Lu Jun, who came out to let the wind blow again, looked at Chen Shi with a furrowed brow and asked puzzled. Chen Shi had already grasped some essential things in a trance before, but the thinking that diverged instantly by Lu Jun could no longer be taken back, and Chen Shi couldn't help but sigh. How is brother Ji Sai? What's wrong with having the protection of the army? In the past, my Lu family merchants were all stop and go, always needing to do a little something. But now with the protection of the army, the water bandits on this river can't help but avoid it. It's really good. Lu Jun said with a proud face, although the Lu family has never had an accident on the river. But that kind of stop and go is indeed because of the helplessness of considering the family population. If not, who likes that?
Oh.
Chen Shi nodded and didn't say anything. Lu Jun pointed out everything to Chen Shi in one sentence, which has made Chen Shi understand why there is no Jiangxia Navy in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River. And how did Ju Yu do it? This Jiangxia Navy is probably in addition to the regular army. The other Yangtze River water bandits are estimated to be surrendered. But Ju Yu did not take the water thieves back to his own water village like Gan Ning, but still stationed in various water veins, and doing their own business. If you say this, now the water bandits in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River have gathered. Firstly, in addition to using these water thieves to stop us, I'm afraid that there is also the intention of clearing out some of the disobedient bandit leaders through our hands. Chen Shi's face darkened, and Ju Yu's approach was obviously a bit of a scoundrel. I'm afraid that Ju Yu has even thought of an excuse to mobilize the Jiangxia Navy on the surface. The Yangtze River water bandits gather in Zhejiang and have the potential to attack Sichuan. If I remember correctly, the main task of the Jiangxia Navy here in Yuanshu is to clear the water bandits, so that the Jiangxia Navy has a reason to dispatch. Zhu Gongjin, you are ruthless enough, raise the enemy and respect yourself. Chen Shi is not a fool. Many things are unthinkable, but once they are clicked, they can be understood in an instant. After all, according to Chen Shi's current estimate, if nothing else, the Yangtze River waterway in the Sichuan area of Zhejiang may gather nearly 30,000 troops. If Chen Shi still suspected that there would be thieves in it before, then now Chen Shi dares to guarantee that these are definitely the secret chests planted by Ju Yu for Sun Ce. Even if Sun Ce doesn't know, Ju Yu definitely knows it in his heart. More than 30,000 people squatted next to Sichuan. Even if Chen Shi didn't think deeply, he couldn't help but doubt Ju Yu's thoughts. you must know that Yuan Shu's only son Yuan Yao seemed to be dying. As a prince, the heir is very important. After Yuan Yao fell, if Yuan Shu also fell, then the 30,000 troops stationed in the Yangtze River were enough to subdue everyone and let Sun Ce take the throne. Chapter 469. Are they coming? Thinking of that situation, Chen Shi shuddered. To say that Yuzhou was in Yuan Shu's hands was casually pinched and played, and the chess pieces were buried in piles and piles. If it weren't for the fear of being attacked by the crowd, Chen Shi would definitely take Yuzhou together, if you want a place with a population and a place with grain. If this place is replaced by Sun Ce, do you know what the situation will be like when the trapped dragon ascends to heaven? At least Chen Shi definitely didn't want to face that situation. Zhuzhu was next to Yuan Shu. As long as Chen Deng was there, Chen Shi was basically not worried. But if he was next to Sun Ce, Chen Shi felt that he had to throw at least 1/3 of his strength to stabilize Zhuzhu. This is a big deal. Ju Yu, a madman. You planned so much in one thing. Do your family know it? Chen Shi was already a little crazy, thinking about the chess pieces buried in Xiangyang and Jiangxia Ju Yu. Chen Shi couldn't help but feel cold in his heart. It was really crazy. Ju Yu had a plan for a long time. If Sun Ce ascends to the throne, it is only a possibility. On the contrary, there will be a lot of trouble after he ascends to the throne. After all, there are too many Yuzhou families, and the strength is too strong, and it is difficult for those scum families in Jiangdong to compromise with Sun Ce. If Sun Ce enters Yuzhou, it is estimated that there will be a lot of trouble. And it is difficult to achieve without suppressing the family. Chen Shi calmed down and finally felt relieved. It seemed that even if Sun Ce trapped the dragon and ascended to heaven, he would not be able to escape the shackles in the short term. Before Chen Shi was completely relieved, Zhuge Liang, who came out with the map, let Chen Shi completely understand what it means to be incomparable. Ju Yu, you really won't have an accident if you do this. Chen Shi didn't know what expression to use. I finally understood why Ju Yu didn't fight Jiangling, and Sun Ce took the throne. You can use this as a catharsis, and then tolerate Yang Ju. I'm afraid it's also Yuan Shu's crazy hint to Ju Yu last time. The contradiction between Sun Ce and the family can be transformed into a contradiction between factions and factions. In addition to the terrifying elder faction, I am afraid that Ju Yu's plan is to check and balance each other between the Yuzhou faction, the Jingxiang faction, and the Yangju faction. What are you kidding? I can make you succeed so easily. Chen Shi completed this series of plans. Couldn't help but be extremely jealous of Ju Yu. This kind of long-term planning plus implementation ability has completely exceeded Chen Shi's estimate. After all, if Chen Shi doesn't pay attention to this, the possibility of success in this matter is not small. But I don't know who is greedy and wants to sit in Yuan Shu's position under Ju Yu's laissez-faire, and the mantis catches cicadas and yellow birds behind. Kong Ming, when will you become an adult? Now I feel that you are still a little weak. Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang beside him and couldn't help but sigh. As far as the current situation is concerned, Ju Yu already has the peak level. Zhuge Liang looked at Chen Shi with a puzzled expression. Then Chen Shi told him the whole thing, and Zhuge Liang was slightly stunned. Whether it was Chen Shi, who deduced the whole situation with a little clue, or Ju Yu, who was taking the opportunity to plan, surprised him. What do you think is the possibility that Ju Yu will do this? Chen Shi said with a wry smile. You should think about what to do when you stand in Ju Yu's position. Zhuge Liang said this, but he knew very well that Ju Yu was very likely to do this, and more importantly, Ju Yu was at most allowed others to murder Yuan Shu, and there was a plot of Sun Ce avenging Yuan Shu behind. Chen Shi didn't answer, just frowned and didn't reply. Zhuge Liang frowned slightly and looked at the hollow folding fan that Chen Shi was holding tightly. He spoke, Zichuan, do you ever remember the heroic spirit of pointing out the world at the beginning? What about your self-confidence? Shouldn't you despise the enemy with a posture of looking down on the world? I'm confident that I can't lose to anyone. I just feel a little strange. With Zhu Gongjin's mentality, it's likely to do this, but he will always accommodate Sun Bofu. Even if Sun Bofu does something wrong, he will open up a broad road on the wrong road. He shouldn't be like this. Chen Shi frowned and said. Chen Shi did not deny that it only took 1 year after the success of this plan. Sun Ce integrated the forces under his command in Jingju, plundered Yangju, and transferred the contradiction between him and the family to the wealthy family in Yuzhou and Yangju. Between the high gates of Jingju, Sun Ce's strength was enough to implement the strategy of dividing the world proposed by Ju Yu in history. If the era of Sun Quan at the end of the Han dynasty could not be confronted, let alone conquered Shixie of Jiaozhou, then Sun Ce really won Jingxiang, Yangju, and Shixie, who had a deep foundation in Jiaozhou, would definitely not be Sun Ce's opponent. I always feel that something is wrong there. If this plan is just a backup plan, what does Ju Yu want to do? Chen Shi couldn't help but think that precisely because he accidentally peeked at the tip of the iceberg, Chen Shi's attention couldn't help but focus, and he went against it and overturned everything before. Chen Shi stretched out his hand and pressed it on his eyebrows, and the wooden folding fan in his hand also slowly opened several fan bones, and the solemnity of his expression made Zhuge Liang can't help but think about the crux of the problem. As Chen Shi said, if Zhu Yu has any shortcomings, it is definitely putting Sun Si's position too high. Zhu Yu couldn't do this. Chen Shi touched the fan bones and wrapped the pendant of the folding fan around his fingertips with his little finger, and he had already sorted out his thinking again. Kong Ming, let's do this matter, just pick it out when necessary, and force Zhu Yu to do it. Chen Shi looked at the river silently, and the fog in the sky had slowly risen. Are you sure that Zhu Gongjin's value is greater than that of a state? Zhuge Liang asked calmly, looking at Chen Shi's red rope wrapped around his little finger and asking a little uncertainly. He also understood what Chen Shi meant. I don't know, but we can't free our hands. At most when Yuzhou falls apart, we will take the land of the 3 counties we have already arranged. But instead of that, it is better to try other methods. Chen Shi said calmly, as long as there is a rift between Sun Bofu and Zhu Gongjin, then Zhu Gongjin will never cross his limits, and Sun Bofu will be difficult to move forward. The two of them can be described as a perfect match. Only when they are together can they be called Xiaobuwang and Mai Zhu Lang, and when they are disassembled, they are Sun Bofu and Zhu Gongjin, although they can still be called amazing, but it is difficult to reach the level of the world sidelines. Chen Shi sighed and said, the most important thing is that the state of Lu, the state of Pei, the state of Chen, and the state of Liang are always desirable for us, and we don't need to open them now. Is it a perfect match? Zhuge Liang said silently, and couldn't help but think, where is the person who is perfect with me? Yes, only Zhu Gongjin standing beside Sun Bofu can be called a posture of heaven and man, and only Sun Bofu standing in front of Zhu Gongjin can be regarded as invincible. Chen Shi looked at the rising fog and said silently, forget it, let's not talk about this, I'm afraid they are waiting for us ahead. Chapter 470 Planning. Zhuge Liang turned on his spiritual talent for a moment, then turned his head to look at Chen Shi. There are 3 inner Qi and 2 top wise men waiting for us dozens of miles away. After saying that, Zhuge Liang couldn't help but have a headache. One of the other party is an acquaintance of mine, and I don't know how to get here. Do you still have acquaintances? Your brother? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows and said, he felt that the fog was abnormally dispersed before he realized that Zhu Yu was more than 10 miles or even dozens of miles ahead, and he didn't want Zhuge Liang's feeling to be clearer. How can there be 3 internal Qi leaving the body? It's not my brother. It's another acquaintance who makes me unhappy. Zhuge Liang's expression was a little gloomy. How could that guy come here? He should be studying at Lumen Academy. Lumen Academy? Chen Shi couldn't help but think of Shu Shu, who was boasting in front of Liu Bei at that time. It had been more than 3 years, and he didn't know how he had learned. Sneeze tilde Shu Shu sneezed at Kui Jun opposite, although he had been cultivating himself for more than 3 years, but he still couldn't change his previous hooligan temperament for acquaintances. Rubbing his nose twice, Shu Shu pretended to look at Kui Jun with an embarrassed expression. Ju Ping, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, your reaction speed is a little slow, you should avoid it when you see me sneezing. Kui Jun wiped his face expressionlessly. He was used to Shu Shu's dead face when getting along with him, and it was precisely because of this unscrupulous behavior that Kui Juping was able to put aside his father's death caused by his own mistake. Forget it, drink a bar, I don't want to worry about you anymore. As he spoke, Kui Jun took out a white porcelain bottle, took out a few wine glasses, and poured a glass of wine for Shu Shu. Drink it. Taishan's new wine is very good, but that's all I have. A big family is good. Shu Shu picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. It's still delicious. After all, I am the legitimate son. The Kui family can't avoid my hurdle. It's almost time for me to go back and take over the position of the head of the family. I think that the strength of my Qinghe Kui family and several families in Jizhou is actually inferior to a Zhen family. Kui Jun and Shu Shu drank wine one after another, talking about their hometown in the north without any scruples. Ha ha ha, after all, it is several of you who still have the Yuan family's grievances, and now they are under the indulgence of the Yuan family. You are afraid and don't want to offend the Zhen family. Shu Shu's eyes flashed, and then he said with a smile. The Zhan family fell to Liu Xuande. Kui Jun said calmly, and sure enough, Shu Shu's hand holding the wine glass trembled. Don't worry. I didn't tell anyone about it. After all, you are Liu Xuande's scheduled commander, and my father, who is the Grand Marshal, died because of my actions, and I have seen everything away. Behind the Zhan family stood the Yuan family. But the real backer is Liu Xuande. Kui Jun said calmly, I plan to go back to Jizhou to become the head of the Kui family. No wonder you brought so many things today. Shu Shu suddenly realized, leave the things, people can leave, just don't talk nonsense when the time comes. Whatever you want, I'll leave after drinking. Kui Jun sighed and said, people can't live forever in the past, the glory left by his father. I will create it again.
Yuan Ji. I'm leaving.
After drinking a glass of wine, Kui Jun took off his coat freely, and then walked out the door without the slightest pause.
Sir, are we leaving like this?
Kui Jun's servant said after Kui Jun.
It's time for me to go and get my head of the family back.
Kui Jun looked at the north calmly and said, the Kui family is only I, Kui Jun, as the head of the family, are orthodox. At this moment, Kui Jun's domineering body did not look like a drunkard who had been decadent for several years, but was truly the legitimate son of a 1,000-year-old family full of knowledge. Master, Kui Ying and others have been in business for several years after all, and I am afraid it will be unpleasing for you to go back like this. The servant lowered his head to advise, but he didn't see the sneer on Kui Jun's mouth. Did he really think he didn't know? The biggest enemy of the Hebei family is Yuan Benchu. If the Kui family, the leader of the family, has the opportunity to completely fall to Yuan Benchu, then with Yuan Benchu's current heroism, he will naturally trust him. Kui Jun jumped into the carriage and remembered the letter from Licheng in the north, and couldn't help but feel a lot of emotion. He thought that he was amazing, and he didn't want Guizhou to send a letter, pointing directly to his heart, so that he was convinced. And then there was a policy, a letter that did not aim to attack the city and plunder the land, but it made Kui Jun completely convinced. Yuan Benchu can be described as Liu Xuanda's biggest obstacle to the hegemony of the world. Whether it is his strength, or his heart is the top in the world, his subordinates are strong and brave, he is heroic and decisive, broad-minded. Although he is in a declining situation, he does not change his will, and he is not suspicious of people. Kui Jun remembered the merits of Yuan Benchu written by Guizhou in the letter, and he was also full of emotion, and such a person was the hero of the world in any era. In fact, including Zun Yu, Guizhou, and others admitted that they had looked away when they were in Jizhou, and Yuan Shao did not have the courage he has now, otherwise they would not have left Yuan Shao, who is now a hero no matter how you look at it. Maybe it can only be said that it is time and fate. Guo Fengxiao is ruthless enough, although this plan does not attack the city and plunder, but after the plan is completed, I am afraid that Yuan Shao will be difficult to restore the heroism of today. The heart is the best, and the heart is the best, and this strategy is successful. Yuan Shao is afraid that he will no longer have the courage to be a hero, and it will be difficult to become a great weapon. I, Kui Juping, will be a pawn in your hand once. Kui Juping read the entire letter again and made up his mind, then burned the entire letter into fly ashes and poured it into the inkstone, and began to grind. Guizhou, who was drinking with Guan Yu and Licheng, suddenly had a touch of scarlet on his face, and then directly vomited out a mouthful of blood, and the person also fell on the wine table, and the shocked Guan Yu stood up directly and ordered Wei Yang to call the doctor quickly. But he saw Guizhou lying in the pool of blood and raised his hand and waved in the direction of Guan Yu, signaling that he was fine.
And then Guizhou's head with a bloody face raised up. Go call the doctor. What kind of wine to drink? Still drink.
Guan Yu hurriedly ordered Wei Yang, and then turned his head to see the dead drunkard Guizhou vomiting blood and pouring wine into the wine glass, and the frightened Guan Yu quickly snatched the wine pot and wine glass. Don't worry, I'm fine now, I don't need to take medicine. Guizhou raised his right hand, which was stained with blood, and held his head with a bloody face and said, I just vomited some blood.
This is called a point.
Guan Yu was already a little panicked. In his opinion, Guizhou was already a little delirious. This is called a little blood. After you vomited a big mouthful, you're still vomiting, you're going to die.
General, Doctor Hua's apprentice is here. Wei Yang rushed in with Li Dongji on his back.
Hurry up, Guo Juncha is about to die. Dr. Li, hurry up and save his life. Guan Yu hurriedly got out of the way. If Guizhou died here, it would be really troublesome. Guan Yu still doesn't know what's going on. Didn't Guizhou go to the Manhualu chain store to eat after that? Why is it suddenly like this? Chapter 471, Capturing the Thief and Capturing the King. Guizhou fell in a pool of blood. There was no uncomfortable feeling. A mouthful of blood spurted out. He didn't have that feeling of life passing. Just a little dizzy. That is to say, he didn't hurt the foundation. Zhou won her. I must kill you when I go back. Can you tell me the side effects when you tell me about my spiritual talent? Guizhou thought dizzily. He didn't expect that he would seize a glimmer of opportunity, and for the first time, he took the initiative to launch his spiritual talent and hurt himself before hurting others. Just prescribe me some blood tonic medicine. Guizhou sat down with his body supported and said to Li Dongji, Guo Changsha, please let me pass the pulse and then say anything else. Although from the face, you just lost too much blood and did not have any injuries. But this situation is also the first time I have seen it. Please let me reconfirm. Li Dongji didn't feel angry at all because Wei Yang carried himself. Guizhou stretched out his left arm and placed it in the bloodstains on the table so indifferently, and the milky white shoe brocade robe was instantly stained with blood. Strange, strange. Li Dongji looked at Guizhou puzzled. I said it's good to prescribe me some blood-nourishing medicine. Guizhou said unhappily. Just make up for it. This kind of porridge and soup will be made by the maid in Changsha's house. After saying that, Li Dang left with a depressed face. After that, Guojia and Guan Yu changed tables and continued to eat and drink, but not long after, Guan Yu's maid brought up a bowl of 3 red blood-replenishing porridge. Guojia looked at the tangled color, and then drank it under Guan Yu's red face. Tell me, what the hell happened before? Guan Yu saw Guojia finish drinking the porridge and asked with a majestic expression. The negative effect of spiritual talent is originally if it is unconsciously promoted this talent. It won't cause any impact, and now even if the weakening of the Lord's talent is still a little injured, it's not worth it. Guojia put the bowl casually, and then said with a smile. Don't do such dangerous things in the future, others don't know your ability. I, Guan Yunchang, know that as long as you are here, Yuan Shao in the north will not be pressed by a large army. Qingju has no worries. Guan Yu nodded and said, if there is a next time, I will do it because it is worth it. I will do it if I exchange my life for the first 10 years of the world, not to mention just a mouthful of blood. Guojia said with a smile, Zichuan, I have paved the way. It's up to you next. Guan Yu was indifferent, although he didn't know the meaning of Guojia's words, but he heard Guojia's determination. Such a person could not be shaken by words. No matter whether it was a comrade in arms or an enemy who persuaded him, he would not waver. It seems that the cost of activating my spiritual talent this time seems to be quite high, and I can't feel my spiritual talent anymore. It is estimated that there will be no way to use it again in less than a year and a half, but if what Jiao Wanhe sent in the letter is true, then this time I can be regarded as using the hands of the Kui family to leverage the general trend. Guojia calculated silently. As for the spiritual talent being blocked, Guojia didn't feel much. He himself didn't rely on this to eat. In fact, what Guojia didn't know was that if it weren't for this time because Liu Bei's talent was launched for the first time to forcibly offset the side effects of his activation of spiritual talent, this time even if Guojia did not die, he was not much better than Shi Jizai, and his lifespan would definitely be greatly reduced. After all, the ability to decide the situation with a word also depends on who initiates it, and the consumption required to decide the life and death of the beggar and the outcome of the empire is completely different. Although Guojia cautiously used Kui Lai as a springboard to pry the Kui family, and then used the Kui family to pry the Hebei family, and finally used the Hebei family to plot against Yuan Shao, but it still did not change that he took the initiative to change the general trend of the world. The next step is to see the results. Guojia couldn't help but look at the north. Whether he was hostile or not, he had to praise the current Yuan Shao. He was indeed a hero, but since he was hostile, he had to fall at the feet of his lord Liu Bei whether he was a hero or not. Chen Shi didn't know what happened in this quarter of an hour. He only knew that Zhu Yu was coming, and neither the troops nor the generals were weaker than them, and they were even victorious. Zhuge Liang's words had already made him understand that the other party had at least 2 top wise men and 3 top masters with internal qi. Friends of Lumen Academy, who are you talking about? Chen Shi asked puzzledly. Who has taught at Lumen Academy during this period? Chen Shi's inquiry made Zhuge Liang a little embarrassed. Lumen Academy, which is also one of the 2 major academies in the world, does not have any masters now, and the talents of Yingchuan Academy can be said to be the foundation that supports all the overlords in the world. Pang Shiyuan, a character no less than me. Zhuge Liang said dissatisfiedly. Now that he is young, he still can't say the kind of self-humility that is 10 times better than me. Pang Shiyuan? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. He left it to you to deal with. I will deal with Zhu Yu. You can just hold down Pang Shiyuan for me. Can you do it? Zhuge Liang frowned slightly, and finally nodded. Okay, I'll suppress Pang Shiyuan. I can do this. What's wrong with Shiyuan? Zhu Yu also found Pang Tong beside him, who had a slightly ugly face, and asked with a puzzled expression. In addition to Chen Zichuan and Zhuge Kongming opposite me, he handed it over to me and I will deal with it. Pang Tong sneered and said, and as he spoke, he directly opened his spiritual talent to plunder Zhuge Liang's intelligence. Zhuge Kongming? Zhu Yu looked at Pang Tong puzzled. A guy who makes me very unhappy. I think you will be upset when you see it. This time I will make him look good. Pang Tong sneered and said, I'll completely dispel the fog first. There's no problem with the river map you gave me. No. Zhu Yu shook his head and said, that's good. The river is turbulent and there are countless undercurrents. Who knows if it will hit the reefs? Pang Tong smiled and said, this battlefield is good. Watch me sink them. Gan Xingba, dare to fight with me on the river. The fog had not yet dissipated, and only a mighty sound in the river was heard. Zhu Yuping, are your injuries healed? Gan Ning smiled. It's just a minor injury. You and I will definitely divide today. Zhu Taihao's mighty voice came along the river again. As the commander, I, as a defeated general, and you, plus the guards, really lose my identity.
Gan Ning's mocking voice spread throughout the fleet, and then laughter was everywhere. Things are not good. Zhu Yuping is also good at water warfare. He will inevitably lead the army straight to me. You wait a while to mobilize the central army to resist the other party's impact, and I will lead the left to insert directly into the opponent's central army. Sun Bofu is young after all, and his strength has not reached its peak. Taking advantage of the time when the military division and Kong Ming are holding back the other party's civil officials, I will quickly take Sun Bofu, Gan Ning said with a cautious expression. Although Gan Ning has not yet determined the number of other ships, he knows that the number is indispensable from Zhu Tai's momentum alone, and in this case, if you want to retreat with your whole body, then the best way is to capture the thief and capture the king. Chapter 472 Dangerous Tactics. Gan Xingba doesn't dare to say he doesn't dare. No one will laugh at you. Zhu Tai's laughing voice came from the other side of the river. Xingba, I'll kill you. You command here. After all, you are the commander of your navy. Tai Shitsi shook his head and said, not wanting Gan Ning to give him the order talisman directly, and then jumped towards the left ship. Zi, you command. There are some things you can't do, Xingba dares to do. While pumping away the fog, Chen Shi began to mobilize his mental strength to adjust the clouds, and soon the Yangtze River, which was hidden by the fog, became bright. Okay, then I'll do it. Tai Shitsi is also a decisive person, knowing that he can't mess up now. What you want to do, I will definitely not let you do it. There is a lot of water vapor on the river. I want to see how you disperse. Pang Tong sneered again and again, not competing with Chen Shi for mental strength, directly pumped the water vapor of the Yangtze River to condense into fog, and was stunned to cover all his ships with thick fog again at the moment when Chen Shi dispersed the fog. Shi Yuan, you go to deal with the other. I have no mistake in dealing with Chen Zichuan. Saying that, Zhu Yu took over Pang Tong's action and mobilized the water vapor to cover his troops. But what about Bo Fu? I drove the boat and rushed over. Pang Tong said indifferently, General Huang, General Han, and General Cheng have all passed, and the number of ships is not large, only a dozen boats, yachts, and only one fighting ship as cover. It's okay, at least I know the cover, and I ordered Ling Cao to lead the front to the rescue. Zhu Yu breathed a sigh of relief. You have already figured out the flow of the river. Don't mobilize at first. Wait until the situation falls to us before taking action. You don't need to tell me this. I know. I'll defend us first. Pang Tong quickly suppressed his own clouds into the ships they were riding on, and then used the clouds to strengthen the strength of each ship. Chen Shi saw the clouds disperse and instantly closed again. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but show a hint of mockery, and then he began to arrange the defense of his own ships without scruples. Gan Xingba relied on this dense fog to sneak attack the enemy's central army while he was unprepared, and this was enough. I can't see this at all. While ordering the fleets to move closer to the main ship, Tai Shitsi ordered the crossbow to be wound and ready to attack, but after doing it, he found that there was no way to shoot at all. Tentative attack in that direction. Chen Shi frowned and said. After he released a large amount of mental energy, he felt something different on his right side. Crossbowman ready. The fog was too heavy for Tai Shitsi to see what was in that place. But I still used my Fang Qian halberd to hit a light blade by feeling, and only heard the muffled sound of the river bursting, and there was also a noisy human voice. Shoot all to the right. Tai Shitsi couldn't take care of it at this time, and he couldn't see it. He was ready to eat even the tempting bait. Go to the boat, prepare the yacht, rush up and jump off the ship to attack. As he spoke, the arrows rained down, and before Sun Ce and his party could figure out what was going on, they saw the rain of arrows flying all over the sky, and immediately there was no concealment at all. The generals will kill the enemy with me. Sun Ce roared and jumped off the edge of the boat. After a few consecutive jumps, he wanted to jump onto the boat, not wanting Tai Shitsi to be ready when he attacked before. At the moment when Sun Ce appeared, he directly drew his bow and arrow and shot towards Sun Ce's chest, and a light arrow instantly shot at Sun Bofu. Sun Ce was in a situation where he was living with new strength one after another. Tai Shitsi shot an arrow. Sun Ce barely turned around and picked up Tai Shitzi's arrow with a spear, but the huge force was not enough to fly out of Sun Ce, who was borrowing strength from the air, and directly nailed Sun Ce into the river with an arrow. Sun Bofu actually appeared here. Tai Shitsi frowned, and in a blur, his own side of the boats and yachts had already been killed, surrounding dozens of large and small ships on Sun Ce's side. Boom! Sun Ce jumped out of the river and swung a huge blade of light with a shot, blasting out a huge wave in the river, and immediately two approaching boats were directly overturned by the big wave because of carelessness. It's really troublesome, compared with water battles and land battles. If there are too few ships, the influence of these top generals is really too great. Chen Shi waved his hand and tried his best to smooth out the huge wave brought by Sun Ce.
No way, land warfare can be regarded as a whole, and each ship in water warfare is a whole, always different. So water warfare strengthens not individual combat effectiveness, but ships, after all, on the river, relying on cloud ships can unload the attack into the river, and can even use it as a means of attack. Tai Shutsi completely ignored Sun Ce's actions and stared calmly in the direction of Sun Ce and said, although everything in front of him was covered by thick fog, but Tai Shutsi could still feel Sun Ce's breath. In this case, the top generals may be weakening the range, and even rely on the river to overturn the ship under the weakening of the clouds. Chen Shi asked with a wry smile. He really didn't know much about water battles. It is true, but it can only be a boat, and it is a boat without the slightest preparation. Otherwise, a large number of ships will be connected to form a whole, and if the clouds are not broken, it will be impossible to overturn, which is the same as I can kill thousands by surprise on land, once they form a military formation, hum. Can this situation break the clouds? Zhuge Liang said puzzledly. Didn't you see that I was dismantling the other party's clouds? Kong Ming gave me a part of the fog in front of me. I want to dismantle the opposite side as soon as possible, and it is valuable to capture Sun Bofu alive. Tai Shutsi had already killed all the drummers on Sun Bofu's side by virtue of the direction from which the drums came, making Sun Ce have problems mobilizing the few ships he brought. As the fog dispersed, Tai Shutsi's mobilization of the navy became more and more accurate, and soon the fleet brought by Sun Ce was interspersed with pieces, and the clouds began to collapse. Bofu, retreat quickly. Han Dang roared. Originally they wanted to take advantage of the fog to sneak attack the Gan Ning army, but they didn't want to be counterattacked before they got close, and they were even in a predicament now. No, Gong Jin will definitely make arrangements. Sun Ce kicked Gan Bao down the Yangtze River. If it weren't for Sun Ce being in the clouds now, this kick would be enough to kick Gan Bao, a kid who barely touched the chi, into a gang. Huang Gari and Cheng Piyu looked at each other. Cheng Piyu rushed directly forward, and Huang Gari took the opportunity to use a roar to mobilize Sun Ce's ships to move closer to Sun Ce. Boom! Huang Gari jumped backwards a few feet, and when he looked down again, a big hole had already appeared where he was standing before, and then without waiting for Huang Gari to stand firm, 5 arrows directly shrouded the place where he could stand near the hole. Ding! Sun Ce picked up the arrow that shot at Huang Gari with a shot, and then dragged Huang Gari to the back, and sure enough, several arrows nailed through the deck again. Chapter 473 Ju Yu's Legion Talent. It's the first time I've seen a general with such good archery skills. Sun Ce frowned and said, there is a little lord, but the little lord said that Gongjin will make arrangements, but he notified Gongjin when he came. Huang Gari also had lingering fears. If it weren't for Sun Ce's eyesight and excellent strength, Huang Gari would definitely be folded here. I didn't say it, but it's nothing, he will definitely send someone. Sun Ce shot through a naval officer and said indifferently, but let's gather to the fighting ship first. I underestimate Gan Xingba. Huang Gari was speechless, but his hands were not slow, and he followed Sun Ce and jumped towards the battleship. Although Sun Ce did not inform Ju Yu, but Huang Gari still believed Sun Ce's words, and Ju Yu would definitely come. Tai Shutsi's movements were similar to those of knives and forks, and he quickly split the small fleet composed of Sun Ce's army and yachts, and then prepared to jump on the battleship to capture Sun Ce and a group of generals alive. It's really tenacious enough. But that's it, prepare the crossbow. Tai Shutsi saw that Sun Ce's hundreds of soldiers would rely on a fighting ship to support himself, and he was dissatisfied, so he directly prepared to jump off the ship and take Sun Ce in person. Don't worry, my lord, Ling Cao is coming. Just when Tai Shutsi was about to do it himself, a loud roar came over, directly causing Tai Shutsi, who was about to jump off the boat, to stop his movements. Bed crossbow shooting. Tai Shutsi did not hesitate at all, and directly ordered the bed crossbow that was about to destroy Sun Ce's fighting ship to shoot in the direction where the sound came from. Chen Shi waved his hand suddenly, and the entire river surface shrouded in fog was directly opened into a blank, only to see Ling Cao leading more than 100 ships of all sizes rushing over. Although the largest is only a fighting ship, and the main force is almost all boats and yachts that can only take 20 or 30 people, but this number is indeed quite scary. I saw Ling Cao leading dozens of small boats rushing over. Seeing that the situation was not good, Tai Shutsi ordered his boat to retreat, and as soon as Sun Ce and the navy led by Ling Cao came into contact, their momentum rose suddenly, only to see a mighty cloud mixed with aqua blue and gold stretching out of the river. This situation is a bit bad. Where did Xingba go? Chen Shi stared at a large area of small sailboards opposite and couldn't help but frown. This number is too much, not to mention 3,000 or 4,000 naval troops. Does Z have a way to break the other party's clouds? It's difficult to break the other party's clouds. Our forces are about the same. Even if I interspersed it, it would be difficult to break the clouds without defeating the other party. unless they were in a mess themselves, it would be really not easy to break up. Tai Shih shook his head. Water battles are more troublesome than land battles. But it's hard for the other party to deal with us. In the end, it can only become a ship-jumping battle. They don't have the advantage. Our ship is high, the bow and arrow are enough to suppress them. As for them want to carry out a decapitation operation, I am here, whatever they want. Maybe he also felt that what he said before was a bit ruining his own prestige. Tai Shih then said domineeringly, "Do you mean ships?" Chen Shi suppressed Ju Yu while suppressing it. While asking, but suddenly felt his thinking sink. And Zhuge Liang's movements also slowed down, and he recovered the next moment, but then he clearly felt that both Ju Yu and Pang Tong on the opposite side had become a little stronger. "I'm tired." Chen Shi felt that his display was ready to cover Sun Ce's army, dissipate the other party's clouds, and the mental volume that confused their attention seemed to suddenly stick to something, and then was suddenly thrown into the river, and a messy mental volume directly killed a large number of fish and shrimp, and the entire river surface jumped for a while. "It's a ship. What's wrong with the military division?" Tai Shih saw Chen Shi's face turn pale and asked in confusion. "It's overshadowed, but it's nothing. Go and inform the person in the cabin to come out and say that we need his combat effectiveness." Chen Shi waved his hand and said to him, "His current situation is that children play with big hammers. It's okay to rub and play, and if it's their turn to hurt others, they may hurt themselves." On the other side, Ju Yu's was not very good. Basically, the moment Chen Shi's face turned pale, Ju Yu's face turned blue. Although a large number of spiritual power mixed with the people's distracting thoughts was thrown into the puddle by Ju Yu to die of fish and shrimp in the Yangtze River, but the rest swept to Ju Yu, which also made Ju Yu a little dizzy. "It's okay, Gong Jin." Pang Tong slowly deepened his spiritual capacity into the undercurrent in the river, slowly accumulating strength. Just as Tai Shih said, the formation of the fleet clouds must be abolished in addition to scattering, but only self-chaotic, and the river surface is always different from the road surface, with countless undercurrents, and it may not be impossible to make contributions under the undercurrent. "It's nothing, it's just a little wrong." Chen Zichuan's mental capacity is definitely related to his spiritual talent, and after I endured these mental quantities, the distracting thoughts in it also affected me, presumably not from myself. Ju Yu calmed down his breathing. "I have reduced their reaction speed, thinking speed, and mental operation speed, and it's up to you next." "No problem, I will give Zhuge Kongming a big gift." An ugly smile appeared on Pang Tong's ugly face. "I have already hooked up a lot of undercurrents, and when the time comes, I will definitely dismantle their fleet in pieces, and I really thought that with a big ship, I could cross the Yangtze River. You as soon as possible." I misestimated the other party's mental capacity, and the intensity of Chen Zichuan's counterattack exceeded my expectations. With a series of churning sounds of the river, Ju Yu's face was a little ugly. Chen Shi's mental capacity far exceeded Ju Yu's estimate, and if this continued, it wouldn't take long for Ju Yu to be consumed first. "Ju Gongjin, I want to see how long you can last." Chen Shi sneered while dealing with Guan Hai, who walked up to the cabin, and continued to draw the spiritual power of unknown origin, insisting on dragging the battlefield into Sun Sijuan's fleet. "Go down for me." Chen Shi suddenly increased the output of his mental capacity, and even waved his right hand unnaturally. This time he directly pressed Ju Yu's spiritual power on several ships of Sun Ce's army, only to hear a series of screams, and all the soldiers on the boat that were facing each other fell, and the soldiers who were affected were also dizzy. Sure enough, clouds can prevent internal qi, but not mental power. Chen Shi laughed, his face slightly flushed and ready to be used again, but he didn't want a red luster to sweep directly from the fog, covering the entire Sun Sijuan cloud as a whole. But then Chen Shi's mental power was difficult to work. "Phew, unexpectedly powerful." Ju Yu smiled bitterly and said, "This spiritual capacity is not what living beings should have at all. Fortunately, I still have a trick." "You're not normal." Pang Tong lowered his head and muttered. "That layer of fiery red brilliance is actually Ju Yu's alternative legion talent, and other generals who rely on their strong will to intimidate their subordinates and unite as one. Ju Yu's does not have the strong will of the top generals. He just uses his spiritual will as an introduction, and uses his talent to arouse the unified desire for victory in the hearts of all soldiers, and water a more unified belief." Chapter 474 Sun Ce vs Tai Shih. If it is said that Chen Shi's mental volume will affect the soldiers precisely because there are many distracting thoughts, then Ju Yu's unified belief is the best shield to isolate this kind of distracting thoughts. "Kill me." Tai Shih knew that something was wrong when the fiery red light swept over Sun Sijuan, and sure enough, after the light swept over, Sun Sijuan soldiers were as morale as if they had been beaten with chicken blood. Legion talent. Tai Shih had a dark face. This kind of completely plug-in thing Tai Shih was not the first time he had seen it on the battlefield. As for this kind of coverage, it was indeed the first time that the number of people covered was so abnormal. "Is Xingba still waiting for the opportunity?" Chen Shi frowned. Now the ships of the two sides are almost mixed, and the big ships have not yet attacked the enemy, but the small ships have basically engaged. Chen Junsha, I will stay by your side to protect your safety, although I don't know much about water warfare, but looking at the current situation, I am afraid it is impossible for you to break the other party in a short time. Guan Hai walked out of the cabin and stood behind Chen Shi. Thank you, Zi. Don't you have the ability of the Legion? Chen Shi frowned and asked. Yes, but the effect is not great. I have used it, but the compatibility between the Navy and my will is not high. These sailors have a short time to run in with me, and I do not have absolute prestige. Tai Shizi said with a wry smile. Chen Shi didn't speak. He was thinking about how to break the game. The current situation is a little bad, although it is not a good defeat, but the situation is not good if it is broken like this. Gan Yi, you command. Protect the military division. I'll break the formation. Tai Shizi saw Sun Si jumping onto a big ship first, and his expression was slightly uncontrollable. The theorem of capturing thieves and capturing kings has not changed since ancient times. Hey! Gan Yi bowed and directly took over Tai Shizi's order talisman. Gan Ning left him a lot of talents when he left home, and many of the talents he left were prepared for danger. After all, the Gan family also devoted all their efforts to shape a direct bloodline, so naturally they would not let it have an accident easily. As he spoke, Tai Shizi directly picked up his Fang Qian halberd and jumped towards the big ship that Sun Si and others jumped on, although half of his strength was suppressed by the sparse clouds, but it still only took a few jumps to fall on the ship. Ding! Tai Shizi Fang Qian drew a halberd through a large arc and used a small halberd to directly lock Sun Si's spear. Then a clever force made Sun Si out. You form a formation to deal with those three, and he will hand it over to me. You were the one who just shot the arrow. I didn't expect that in addition to Gan Xingba, there were also generals like you in this navy. Sun Si held his spear tightly, stared at the tall Tai Shizi and said slightly excitedly. Sun Bofu? Tai Shizi reconfirmed the identity of the other party. Do you want to surrender to me? Sun Si said with a smile on his face. For a heroic general like you, I have always refused to come. How is it? But if you want to surrender to me, with my son Bofu here, it won't be easy for you to kill out. Remember that it was Donglai Tai Shizi who killed you. After listening to Sun Si's words, Tai Shizi did not have the slightest expression, but just waved his Fang Qian halberd, and then rushed directly towards Sun Si. HMPH. Sun Si laughed and rushed towards Tai Shizi. The spear in his hand vibrated slightly, and pierced between Tai Shizi's chest and abdomen with strong power. Ding! The Fang Qian halberd in Tai Shizi's hand knocked on the tip of the spear, and the huge power was directly transmitted. The left hand that couldn't hold the halberd was slightly numb, and then threw out a huge arc and slid towards Sun Si's throat. Boom! Sun Si immediately shot Tai Shizi's halberd. Tai Shizi flew out as if he was not paying attention, and distanced himself from Sun Si. After Tai Shizi flew out backwards, he immediately held the halberd in both hands, turned over in the air, and stepped on the air into a liquid state with one foot, and turned into a golden light and slashed towards Sun Si, and Sun Si also turned over and stepped on the deck, and the spear in his hand stabbed out more than a dozen golden lights that enveloped Tai Shizi's figure. With one blow, all the guns of Sun Si flew away, and Tai Shizi waved the halberd and slashed directly at Sun Si's waist. Boom! With a bang, Sun Si's whole person flew out of hundreds of meters like a golf ball, and Tai Shizi also turned into a golden light and jumped into the air, and then the two golden lights flew away faster and faster with the thinness of the cloud coverage, and finally fell directly into the river. The first golden light fell directly on the river, and then Tai Shizi also landed on the river, and the two held their respective weapons and looked at each other with a calm expression. We can all let go of our hands and feet here. Sun Si had a smile on his face. My favorite is the master. Me too. Tai Shizi laughed. The golden arrogance on his body exploded wildly, and Sun Si also suddenly burst out his same golden inner chi as if he had resonated, and the entire river was turbulent in an instant. HMH, I hate having someone as arrogant as me. Sun Si held his spear tightly and stared at Tai Shizi and said unhappily. Sun Si, who had always thought that he was unique, was very upset to see others like him. Leaving with your head, I'm unique. Tai Shizi sneered and stepped on the water, and a large funnel suddenly appeared in the concave area of the river, and the whole person turned into a golden light and slashed towards Sun Si. I think so too. Sun Si pressed all the sounds together into a roar and pressed towards Tai Shizi, and the fog on the river surface was directly shaken out of a blank space by a sound line. Boom! Tai Shizi directly tore open the explosion with a light blade, and then slashed towards Sun Si with the momentum of Mount Tai, slashing on Sun Si's spear with a blow, and directly driving Sun Si into the river with an unrivaled prestige, smashing a huge wave dozens of meters high, and Tai Shitsi turned over out of thin air and fell to the water surface on the side. Rumble. A golden spear broke through the water the moment Tai Shitsi fell to the water, directly enveloping the place where Tai Shitsi landed. The Fang Qian halberd in Tai Shitsi's hand swung horizontally to cut off several golden spears, relying on the recoil, instantly escaped from Sun Ce's attack range, stood in the air, roared, slashed towards Sun Ce in the river, directly split the river. Along the opening of the river, Tai Shitsi instantly noticed Sun Ce, who was about to jump out of the water. Die for me. Picking up the treasure bow, pulling the bowstring in the direction of Sun Ce, countless fine gold wires were formed directly on the bowstring. As soon as he let go, he only heard a beep. Like a storm, countless filaments penetrated the entire river, and in an instant, the river surface stirred up countless ripples, and the golden light filament covered all the directions of Sun Ce's escape. How can you die here? Sun Ce's eyes were blood red, and there was no way to retreat. He directly burst out all his inner energy, clenched his spear and stabbed towards the place where the fine light filament was the densest. Open it for me. Chapter 475 Trembling Battle. Not to mention the battle between Sun Ce and Tai Shitsi, Zhuge Liang on the other side had easily suppressed Pang Tong's harassing attack, but it was precisely because he suppressed Pang Tong's spirit to counterattack Zhuge Liang that he felt that it shouldn't be like this. Speaking of which, it was also because Zhuge Liang and Pang Tong were too familiar. He clearly knew that Pang Tong's ability was no less than his, and because of this, Zhuge Liang felt incredible that he could suppress Pang Tong so easily. It is said that although Zhu Yu weakened Zhuge Liang's intellectual ability in all aspects, and Pang Tong also promoted his intellectual ability in all aspects, Pang Tong was distracted after all, and it was already God's blessing to be able to block it to this extent. After all, according to the current level of converted into data, Zhuge Liang, who was unknowingly cut by Zhu Yu, is still lying on the edge of 90, and Pang Tong, who has raised his intelligence, still has not broken 100, and has not yet reached the level of abusing Zhuge Liang with one hand. But Pang Tong has never thought of overturning Zhuge Liang head-on. He and Zhuge Liang's victory or defeat and the victory or defeat of the entire battle situation. Pang Tong does not feel how important his victory or defeat is. After all, he has fought with Zhuge Liang countless times. Kong Ming, I see that your expression is not right, but what are you hesitating? Without Zhu Yu's chaos, Chen Shi can be regarded as freeing up his hands. Zhu Yu's legion talent added to morale, which made Gan Yi and Chen Shi obviously a little dumbfounded. After all, in this era of cold weapons with high morale, Zhu Yu's morale soared after a legion talent, so that Gan Ning's navy was almost a little unable to resist. But fortunately, Chen Shi was not discouraged. After all, Zhu Yu's legion talent was weird no matter how you looked at it. According to Zhao Yun, it was impossible to carry the will of the legion to be highly unified without internal energy. And Zhu Yu, killing Chen Shi, doesn't believe that the other party is not only a top wise man but also a top master. With such an idea, Chen Shi did not stop the erosion of his spiritual power at all. With a large amount of mental power invested, Chen Shi's spiritual volume began to erode Zhu Yu's legion talent, and it didn't take long for him to understand the essence of Zhu Yu's legion talent. Although he couldn't find a way to crack it for a while, he also knew that Zhu Yu's legional talent was actually using some unknown method to let his spiritual will lead others' spiritual will to unify and stimulate his own morale, and these were enough for Chen Shi to mess up. This kind of thing is difficult to do. Otherwise, it would not be that only a few people could instill their will into the troops under their command without reaching the internal qi and leaving the body. As for the means like Zhu Yu that are not centered on their own will, they can be said to be unique. Unfortunately, Chen Shi's spiritual talent itself has an affinity for the spiritual will of others, and it relies on a huge spiritual capacity to lead the spiritual will of others. It didn't take long for a moon-white brilliance to sweep directly across Liu Bei's army with Chen Shi as the center. If Zhu Yu relied on the resonance of his own talent in the piano to stimulate the resonance in the beliefs of all the soldiers, forming a power similar to the talent of the legion, then Chen Shi relied on the huge spiritual capacity to connect the similarities of the spiritual will of all people and then fuse them together. It is precisely because both sides have inspired their own will. Liu Bei's army, which was originally beaten to some pieces, took advantage of the opportunity to withdraw and surrounded several attack points protruding from Sun Tzujuan. The situation on the entire battlefield once again became less clear than before. Pang Shiyuan has a trick, but I don't know where his move is, Zhuge Liang said hesitantly. Then force them out. Chen Shi broke through a group of fog, stared at Sun Tzujuan in the distance, turned his head to Gan Yi and asked, "Can you set fire to the ship now? If we could, we would force them back, and our big ships were never agile enough." Gan Yi stared at the place where Cheng Piyu and his party were fighting, and hesitated for a moment. The military division also asked you to send him to transfer away the general who was commanding the enemy, otherwise it may be difficult to work. Speaking of Cheng Piyu, Huang Gari was a good commander of water battles, but unfortunately Sun Ce was too impulsive and rushed over. Cheng Pu and his party also followed Sun Ce because of Sun Ce's identity, and as a result, they could only be used as water generals in charge of the battle, but let Ling Cao command the ships on his behalf. But then again, Ling Cao commanded well, at least Gan Yi had faintly fallen into a disadvantage. You must know that this is a melee of hundreds of ships, although they are all small boats, but it is not a joke to be able to put Gan Ning's navy at a disadvantage in such a short period of time. Rely on you, the other party is not weak. Chen Shi turned his head to Guan Hai and said, but don't worry, no one knows who you are. Leave it to me, he is weaker than me, his breath is vain, I'm afraid he just broke through. Guan Hai sneered and said, speaking of Guan Hai's accumulation is not very strong, but because the will he implemented at the beginning was the idea of sacrificing his life, and the spiritual will was extremely solid, so the inner energy was extremely pure, not worse than a top master like Guan Yu, but unfortunately the amount was not enough. After saying that, Guan Hai jumped off the flagship and rushed directly towards Ling Cao's fighting ship, avoiding cloudy places along the way, and burst out of his own internal energy against the clouds and rushed over. Ling Cao, dare to fight. The moment Guan Hai jumped onto the battleship, his roar echoed on the river. Ziheng is in command of you. I can't fight here, I'll clean him up. General Ling Cao handed over the order to Lu Fan, and then went directly towards the river, and then stepped on the water and jumped towards the north. HMH, directly consume internal chi and jump over. I want to see how much internal chi you can consume. When Ling Cao leaped, he glanced back at Guan Hai who was following him, and sneered and thought again and again. He had already understood that the other party's inner energy was not much more than his own, and he had also just broken through. Chen Zichuan seems to be very important to Liu Xuande, just traveling with enough forces to start a war. Ju Yu also heard the mighty roar on the river, and couldn't help but smile. Ju Yu knew that Chen Shi would inevitably lure Ling Cao away. After all, for those who have lived in the north for a long time, there will not be too many generals who can fight in water, let alone generals who are good at water warfare, so that luring away the opponent's naval commander is the best choice, but compared to Ling Cao's naval command, Lu Fan's naval command is probably better. HMPH, don't you too? Pang Tong said unhappily, Zhuge Kongming must have doubted me, I am very familiar with him, so he must be guessing what my backhand is now, although I am confident that he will definitely not think of the place where he stands under his feet who has not been exposed to water battles. But if he is not afraid of 10,000, he will always have unexpected moves. Try the fireboat first. I think I already understand what Xingba wants to do. That guy is really a bold and careful person. Chen Shi looked at the dozens of small ships deployed by his baggage ship and laughed. Chapter 476 Zhuge Liang who opened his ability. After Zhuge Liang thought about it, he took back the mental power he and Pang Tong had put right, compared with Chen Shi's mental capacity that could stun the opponent's soldiers without protection. The mental energy of Zhuge Liang, Pang Tong and Ju Yu obviously did not have that special effect. Speaking of which, Zhuge Liang was also a little hesitant to use his spiritual talent. After all, as the battle with Pang Tong lasted longer, Zhuge Liang became more and more uneasy, and Pang Tong was not so easy to deal with. Open. If you lose to Pang Tong like this, you will definitely not be able to bear it. I'm better than him. And I'm only 14 years old now, and I have a little life, so I can't afford to consume anything. When Zhuge Liang followed Chen Shi to change the celestial phenomena at the same time, he couldn't help but make up his mind. Chen Shi and Zhuge Liang joined forces to change the sky, and in an instant, a manic west wind swept across the river, and Gan Yi had already ordered someone to blow the horn, and the order to jump off the ship and abandon the ship on the front line had been conveyed, and in an instant, the flames rose directly at the place where the front line and Sun Ce were fighting. Herald, General Cheng, General Han, General Huang, abandon the ships that are rushing to attack, and the ships behind slowly retreat. Lu Fan saw a red line suddenly appearing on the river and the oncoming west wind, and made an instant judgment. But it was like this, there were still too many ships that were directly ignited because they were too close to Gan Ning's ships. Gan Ning, who was ambushed in the fog on the other side, finally moved at the moment when the west wind rose, and before he found Ling Cao's brigade of ships after driving a section. It was because of this that Gan Ning understood that Sun Ce was probably thinking the same idea as him, but then Gan Ning thought of a better plan. Everyone is ready. Go all out to stabilize the ship and crush the enemy ship at full speed. Gan Ning ordered the crew of his ship, and then ordered someone to notify the captains of the 6 large ships. It's almost over. Chen Shi looked at Sun Tzujuan, who was quite far away from their big ship on the river. Both sides were salvaging their crews, and when the burning ships were extinguished, a bigger battle would begin, but Gan Ning should have ended the battle before that happened. Chen Shi didn't notice that Zhuge Liang's face was slightly whitened at this moment, but his eyes were shining. It feels very good. Zhuge Liang looked at the line of fire calmly. It feels like everything is under control.
Sichuan, look at me next. Zhuge Liang looked up at Chen Shi with a warm smile and said, although I don't understand the navy, it is not difficult to defeat them at this time, and I think we will not lose to them if we are more courageous. What's more, I remember that Bo Yang once told me that our ship is fireproof, right? Zhuge Liang didn't look back, but Lu Zun, who was hiding on the side, had a feeling that Zhuge Liang was looking at him. It gave him creeps. Lu Zun, who stood up silently, nodded, but it's only a certain degree of fire prevention, and it will still be ignited if it takes too long. Running over, the line of fire is not wide, at most 200 steps wide, our boat, full of sails, rowing with all our might. It only takes a few breaths to get through, and our big ships don't need to be too close together. At that time, it was not the clouds, but the speed. It was useless to crush them with any clouds, and after penetrating them, their formation was also useless. Zhuge Liang said with a warm smile on his face. Break the formation? Chen Shi was a little unsure whether he could do it, and then glanced at Zhuge Liang and decided to believe his judgment. Gan Yi, can Kong Ming do what he said? Chen Shi turned his head and asked. We are very good at colliding with ships. Gan Yi laughed, all prepared, full sails, boatmen prepared, bed crossbows prepared, archers prepared, kerosene prepared. Let everyone prepare for the cold. Zhuge Liang turned his head sideways to Gan Yi and ordered, but Gan Yi obviously didn't understand this sentence, but looked at Chen Shi standing aside and nodded at him, so he didn't ask any more questions and directly issued this order to the surrounding ships. Sichuan, accompany me to control the river. This can also be controlled. Pang Xuan's previous plan should be to use the undercurrent to draw the river water to break the formation when we are driving. There are not many reefs here. Zhuge Liang looked at the line of fire in the fog and said indifferently. Zhuge Liang had never felt so comfortable, deducing future plans from previous scenarios, and all plans became jokes in front of his soaring intelligence. Jiang Shui? Chen Shi was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly shocked. Indeed, if the river water was suddenly emptied when sailing at high speed, the ship would definitely move involuntarily that way. So ruthless. Chen Shi's face darkened. Okay, then I'll stabilize the undercurrents in the river and let them not riot suddenly. Well, presumably General Gan should have seized the opportunity to destroy Zhu Yu and his party at this time. Our west wind is not for the fireship. Zhuge Liang had a smile on his face, as if he was Gan Ning now. If nothing else, it should be. Let's do it too. Chen Shi's large amount of spiritual volume directly emerged, compared with Pang Tong's petty spirit of smoothing the undercurrent in the river little by little. Chen Shi used his terrifying spiritual capacity to directly interfere with the flow of the river. March, I can't hold on for long. Zhuge Liang looked at the line of fire in the distance, felt the rising speed of the ship, and said silently, and then couldn't help but look sideways at Chen Shi beside him. His current state has the spiritual talent of almost everyone on Liu Bei's side, except for the one next to him. Pang Tong on the other side already felt that something was wrong at this time, although his intelligence suddenly soared, and even rose to nearly 100. But because of this, Pang Tong could better understand what kind of changes had happened on the other side. Damn! Gong Jin, I'm afraid our front army won't be better. The hand of the river flow is useless. I tried it before, and it has been restricted by Chen Zichuan. Pang Tong said with a slightly pale face. Don't worry, with Ziheng here, the other party will break out of the formation at most, and it will not cause damage to most of our army. The Jiangxian Navy is coming soon. Zhu Yu said with a smile on his face. My goal in this battle is to eliminate the enemy within us. And by the way, test Liu Bei's navy. Now that the goal has been achieved, the next step is to see how they break the formation. Pang Tong glanced at Zhu Yu gloomily and didn't want to say anything. He couldn't do it like Zhu Yu, he looked so openly. Chapter 477 Frost Dance. As Zhu Yu spoke, he suddenly felt a cold wave coming, and the fog on the entire river surface turned into frost in an instant, and even the sky had frozen due to the thick fog. An ice slag was falling fluttering, and the unprepared Zhu Yu Navy even felt that his body suddenly became less sensitive at this moment. It's up to you next. Zhuge Liang suddenly felt that he had stopped his spiritual talent decisively, and his face was a little pale, but he didn't feel that his life was passing as he thought, so he stretched out his hand and laughed on the edge of the boat. This feeling. Chen Shi wrapped himself in spiritual power, stretched out his hand to feel the ice flowers slowly falling in the sky. The first time he felt that this kind of power should not belong to this era. If it is called wind and rain, then is this kind of dog days ice and snow dance really a conventional power? Ha 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 ha, Zichuan, the first time I saw this kind of shocked look on your face, wasn't it just a dance of ice and snow? Zhuge Liang laughed while holding the edge of the boat. Chen Shi's shocked expression made him very satisfied. Rush over and crush them when they are not comfortable with the riot. The shock on Chen Shi's face converged and then ordered loudly at Gan Yi. No matter how Zhuge Liang did it, This is a good time, a very good opportunity. The whole army charges. Don't dodge the ships, sink them. Gan Yi roared hoarsely. In any case, the opportunity of the Gan Ning army has come. Although Gan Yiming tilde Chang tilde Feng tilde when tilde Shui tilde tilde CFWX tilde made everyone prepare for the cold, the vast majority of people did not take it to heart, but they were more or less mentally prepared. In this way, it is much better than Sun Ce's situation in a short shirt on the opposite side, and this kind of sudden cooling down. The leather armor and armor on the opposite side are definitely glued to the body, and the body will also be uncomfortable due to the drastic temperature changes. At the same time, Lu Fan already understood that something was wrong. Not to mention anything else, except for Gan Ning, who will carry a large number of baggage ships will prepare a few more sets of clothing, even if the regular army will prepare a robe when fighting, not to mention these water thieves. When they go to battle, the ship is small, the weapons are average, the so-called battle armor is just a few layers of single linen. It is simply impossible to protect from the cold. You must know that Zhu Yu himself planned to clean up the disobedient bandit leaders among the water thieves. How could he provide them with his own limited supplies? In this way, when Zhuge Liang used his spiritual talent to accurately understand what Zhu Yu wanted to do, he did not hesitate to use Lu Su's talent. Use fog as a pre-skill to create the frost talent. All in all, if Lu Su's spiritual talent is used for rain, if nothing else, it will be high in the sky for a long time. The chill has long been worn away. And if it is directly cast with fog and concentrated in a radius of more than 10 miles, it is not a joke that the dog days change to 39 days, although the support time will not be too long. But if you play Yin, whether it is broken or charged, it is definitely first class and easy to use. Dispersed quickly, and the lead ship approached. The rear ships retreated. Lu Fan yelled. At this time he planned to give up the frontline ships without even thinking about it. Keeping the main body of the navy is what he should do most. After the order, Lu Fan had already begun his own actions, and the roaring west wind blew frost to make Lu Fan feel the pain like a knife. But so far Lu Fan has no intention of putting it on this aspect, and if he doesn't break the cold fog of the west wind, Lu Fan estimates that Sun Ce's navy will lose most of it if it is not extinguished. Lu Fan suddenly burst out of his mental power, and a large number of cold fog was dispersed unexpectedly. But unfortunately, because of such an action, Chen Shi was stared at, and the cold fog that had just been dispersed directly pressed over, swept over Lu Fan, leaving him covered in frost. This damn weather! Gan Ning suddenly felt cold when the frost swept by, and involuntarily burst out of his inner energy. And then Zhu Yu, who was not too far away, suddenly noticed that Gan Ning, who had been restraining his breath, had approached his side, and suddenly looked shocked. Not good, Yuping, prepare to retreat with gongs, and the other party will kill our Chinese army. Zhu Yu yelled at Zhu Tai beside him. He already knew that now was definitely not the time to do it. The soldiers under his command were basically cold hands and feet, and there was no combat effectiveness at all. This fog is the biggest problem. There was no fog originally. This cold air has long been dispersed, and now it is getting colder and colder, and Chen Zichuan is there to dispel this coldness at all. Pang Tong said with a dark face. He was not worried. After all, it was cold caused by spiritual talent, and it was completely okay to protect himself with spiritual power. We're in trouble this time. Zhu Yu smiled bitterly and said, I'm a little overwhelmed, although I don't know what's going on, but the situation is a bit bad now. Zhu Tai jumped off the ship and led dozens of boats towards the direction Zhu Yu pointed out, but it was obvious that the people he led were basically a little frozen, saying that if this coldness had not been encircled by the fog, it would have begun to dissipate by now, and they didn't want to be extremely cold now, and even many people were already shivering from the cold. Who are you coming? Quickly announce your name. Zhu Tai stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the misty place and yelled. He also knew that it was a moment to be able to drag on for a while at this time, and it would be good to evacuate smoothly after Zhu Yu finished the navy and reorganized the army. Zhu Yuping, ha ha ha, thank you for pointing out your exact location to my uncle, and I will send you to feed the fish now. Gan Ning's rampant voice appeared and echoed in the Yangtze River, and Zhu Tai was shocked, and then he heard Gan Ning laugh. Knock them down for me, even if they are divine beasts in front, they will knock me over. As he spoke, Gan Ning's entire fleet was wrapped in Gan Ning's dark blue legion talent. The clouds were all absorbed, and the speed and strength of the ship rose in an all-round way, and it rushed at full speed in the direction where the sound came from with a layer of light mask. As Gan Ning said, he didn't care about what was in front of him at all, and he would say it if he hit it. Garbar! With a series of crisp sounds, Gan Ning knew that he had hit the opposite side, but the speed did not drop in the slightest. The big ship just crushed the small boat, and no one could stop it at all. With the crisp sound of Garbar all the way, Gan Ning didn't even see Zhu Tai, who was limited by the clouds and the talent of the Legion, and directly ran him into the river, and then his ship crashed headlong into the center of the ship Zhu Yu was riding. With a loud click sound, Zhu Yu's ship was directly hit into two sections by Gan Ning from the middle, but because of this,
Gan Ning's ship was able to stop charging. Take out all the bows and crossbows and bed crossbows for me, cover the design of one place at a time, don't spare arrows, kill Ju Yu and reward 1 million money, a big ship. Gan Ning also almost fell on the deck because of the violent vibration caused by the ship hitting the ship, and stood up straight and yelled. Chapter 478. The boat is light. Withdraw. Ju Tai crossed the water, fished out the embarrassed Ju Yu and Pang Tong from the water, and then successively knocked away the rain of arrows covered by Gan Ning's men, and struggled to burst out with internal energy and flew towards the distant fighting ship. Gan Xingba dares to go head-to-head with me. Ju Tai shouted as he flew. Phut. Ju Tai struggled to protect Ju Yu and Pang Tong and then dodged the key points, but he was still cut by a blue arrow of light between his abdomen and chest. Your intelligence is really problematic. You Uncle Gan, I am a naval general and you a water thief head-to-head, and the whole army rushed in the direction where the voice came from. Gan Ning laughed. He is a rogue. How can it be good for him? How can he come, as a member of a family and even a water thief? He can't do anything. Gan Xingba, you wait, I, Ju Yuping, will make you look good one day. Ju Tai was half dead, put down Ju Yu and Pang Tong, who was shivering from the cold, and yelled, there is a saying that if you lose, you don't lose. TSK, TSK. I remember you said this. Gan Ning said angrily, you have no hope in this life. The whole army charged. Where Ju Yuping was, Ju Gongjin must be there too. Ju Tai was shocked, only to see Ju Yu on the side sighing, we lost this battle, according to our previous plan to withdraw to the direction of Shouchuan. Chen Zichuan's mental strength has always been a trouble. The cold fog is easy to break, but there is no way to break it with Chen Zichuan present, so it is difficult to resist the celestial phenomena. Don't mention him, my spiritual talent is ineffective against him. Pang Tong said with a wry smile, I can't brush the power to improve my abilities on him. My spiritual talent is effective. But how to make up for this celestial phenomenon? We have no advantage in competing with him in mental strength. Ju Yu listened to the sound of the gong behind him, shook his head and walked towards the cabin. The coverage area is too large. Although the range he could fully control was more than 10 miles, but within the range of more than 10 miles, I am afraid that it would be difficult for me to change the celestial phenomena even if they were 2 or 3, and it was really against the sky. Pang Tong also said with a sad face, that level of mental capacity is too terrifying. Of course, Pang Tong also knew that if he could brush up on 5 or 6 Zhuge Liang's abilities, he would probably be able to fight with Chen Shi in a short period of time. After all, Pang Tong could see that there was an upper limit to the amount of spirit that Chen Shi could mobilize. Not because of lack of mental capacity, but because of his intelligence, there is a limit to life. His mental capacity should be saved. I can try to fight him for a short period of time, but he can always maintain it at the peak. I only have a moment, and this can't be cracked at all. Ju Yu also said helplessly. The two of them have little difference in their peak mental output. Although this battle was lost. But Ju Yu also has a considerable understanding of Liu Bei's navy, and the combat effectiveness is that of the second-rate, first-class level. After all, Ju Yu commands the water bandits, and the elite navy with a real establishment has not been mobilized at all. He is here to test the combat effectiveness. But what makes Ju Yu entangled now is not the combat effectiveness of Liu Bei's navy, but Chen Shi's spiritual talent, which he has never thought about before, so much mental strength. This is too convenient for the changes in celestial phenomena, and there is no way to fight against it. There is no good way. When the time comes, if you fight against him, Chen Xiang will give up. As for the ice. Behind, Pang Tong looked at Ju Yu. Do you think this is a spiritual talent? Yes, because our spiritual power can protect ourselves. It means that it is a spiritual talent. Ju Yu nodded and said, I always feel that this spiritual talent should not be Kongming's. Pang Tong said a little uncertainly, Kongming's spiritual talent should not be like this, although it is indeed very powerful, but with my familiarity with Kongming and my original feeling, it will definitely not be this spiritual talent. I don't know this. Ju Yu shook his head. It should be who has 2 talents, it's a normal thing. Ju Yu's casual words gave Pang Tong a heavy blow, which bastard said this is a very normal thing. They all think it is the same as you Ju Yu, but with Ju Yu's precedent, although Pang Tong didn't believe that Chen Shi or Zhuge Liang might have double talents, he finally acquiesced. Liu Bei's big ship and Gan Ning's courage and wisdom are not bad. If Gan Xingba commands the navy, he will either win or lose a big battle with this courage alone, but this person's courage and heroism may be easy to survive. Ju Yu shook his head and said, he is a good general. Just like this time we all thought that it would be difficult for him to find our Chinese army hidden in the fog, and we didn't want to have an accident. Presumably we fell for their trick from the beginning. Pang Tong shook his head and said, it's a pity to capture the old man. Xingba seems to be doing a good job. Chen-Shi smiled and said, let's start dispersing the fog after a while. This fog is cold enough. By the way, how do I feel that this is a bit like Zijing's ability? I will change the day. As for this abnormal ability, it seems that Zijing has it, but it is not so strong. I can use the spiritual talents of everyone on my side. Zhuge Liang smiled and said, this is indeed Zijing's spiritual talent. It is estimated that he has not been ruthless before. I just launched everyone's spiritual talent. It is really easy to use, but unfortunately I don't have your spiritual talent.
I see.
Chen-Shi smiled. No wonder I feel that you were a little abnormal before, but why don't you continue to drive? Even if you don't have my spiritual talent, the sum of the others is very strong.
It's because it's too strong.
Zhuge Liang smiled bitterly and said, but I don't know why there was no backlash after just opening it for a while. Although my intuition told me that if I continued to drive, something would definitely happen, but there was no strange situation except for some discomfort for a while. Zhuge Liang was obviously a little excited when he said this. He knew that he would not lose his life. Although he could only open half a stick of incense for less than a while, Zhuge Liang would also turn it on early. Zhuge Liang had a feeling in the previous situation. Pang Tong he could basically hang up and fight. The opposite side was scum, and his own people could guess what they were doing with guessing.
Oh, this Sui Yuan told me that people have limits, and I guess that is your limit.
Chen-Shi nodded and said, Zhusi also told him, don't let him mess around. If his mental capacity is abused, he may hurt himself, and there will be no problem with using it casually below the upper limit. But try not to touch the upper limit as much as possible, as for the reason is the limit of the life body. Ju Yu had made plans to retreat early in the morning, and the information he needed had been obtained, although he made himself a little embarrassed. But the overall situation was still according to his plan, and when the light boat Sun Si's navy retreated, it was smooth sailing, and the gong sounded, and the morale of Sun Si's army turned the bow of the ship and ran towards the lower reaches of the Yangtze River.
Chapter 479 The Big Head is Behind.
When the cold wave swept over, Sun Si, who was fighting in the air with Tai Shutsi at the time, was affected because he was the first step, stiffened for a moment, and was pierced by Tai Shutsi's arrow. But Tai Shutsi didn't feel better, and when he stiffened in the next moment, Sun Si's roar made him dizzy and his nose was bleeding. On the other hand, when the cold wave hit, Ling Cao was almost killed by Guan Hai. Firstly, Ling Cao underestimated Guan Hai, thinking that the other party was consuming too much internal energy, and secondly, Guan Hai pretended to be exhausted, seizing the opportunity to give Ling Cao a ruthless one. If it weren't for Ling Cao desperately trying to dodge the attack range of that shot, Guan Hai would definitely stab Ling Cao's head with one shot, but her ear was also cut in the neck by a single shot, and blood burst out. When the gong sounded, Sun Si and Tai Shutsi didn't know what was going on. They had already hit from the sky into the water, and then from the water to the soil. Sun Si, who had difficulty even flying before, was actually beaten and had already realized how to fight in the air. Is this the enemy of fate? Both sides are getting stronger and stronger. Boom! The tip of the spear was against the tip of the halberd. Tai Shutsi and Sun Si collided in the air. The two golden rays were a little vain, flew out and smashed into the water, and after sliding nearly 100 meters on the water, the two jumped up almost at the same time. Tai Shutsi, today's battle will be left for later. Next time I will definitely kill you. Sun Si gasped slightly unpleasantly when he heard the sound of the gong. Sun Si was always too young, although his talent was excellent, but his strength did not reach his peak, and his inner energy was not thick enough, and although the battle with Tai Shutsi progressed rapidly, he also suffered a lot of injuries.
I'll kill you now, Tai Shutsi said angrily.
Speaking of which, Tai Shutsi had already seen Sun Si's abnormal speed of progress, and thinking about the other party's age, Tai Shutsi couldn't help but be unscrupulous.
I won't play with you anymore. Sun Si laughed.
He is not a masochist, and if he continues to fight, although there will be no problem with his life safety, he will definitely not have a good time, and immediately jumped in the direction of Ling Cao's breath.
Bell.
Sun Si forced Guan Hai, who was fighting with Ling Cao, to retreat with a single shot, stretched out his hand to grab Ling Cao, and the whole person suddenly burst out with all his inner energy. It flew away along the river at an incredible speed. Boom! Tai Shutsi chased Sun Si's direction with an arrow, but there was no hope of returning the hit. Sun Si had already suffered losses several times because of Tai Shutsi's bow and arrow. How can we not do more defense? Sun Si's scream came from the air, and Tai Shutsi's disapproving arrow hit Sun Si again, and sure enough, although some people made rapid progress, their brains did not grow.
It's okay.
Tai Shutsi fell to look at Guan Hai and didn't know what to call him.
Sun Bofu didn't come. I killed each other.
Guan Hai glanced at Tai Shutsi dissatisfiedly. The other person doesn't seem much weaker than you. I'm afraid I can't defeat him except for a protracted battle. Tai Shutsi smiled bitterly and said, if you leave, you don't have to chase after them. They are bent on running. It is difficult for us to catch, and it is easy to be countered.
Go find General Gan first, he's in that direction. Saying that, Guan Hai chased in the direction of his finger. On the other side, Chen Shi and Zhuge Liang had already begun to clear the cold fog. Although it was necessary to cover the sneak attack of its own side before, it has now won a big victory. It is more necessary to pursue the victory. Zhuge Liang and Chen Shi looked at each other after clearing the cold mist. Small boats also have the benefits of small boats. Chen Shi couldn't help but say, it's much faster than our big ship under the smooth sailing. Forget it, order people to treat the wounded soldiers of the enemy and us. Gan Yi counts the battle losses, let's hurry up and join Xingba, we can't continue to delay in the Yangtze River. Our navy doesn't seem to be very strong. Zhuge Liang said silently. Definitely not strong, it would be strange if the navy could ship in 2 years. Besides, it took a lot of time to build and change ships, and there was not much time for good training, and the combat effectiveness of the bandits was not weak after being mobilized by Zhu Gongjin, our navy. Now I'm satisfied with this extent, anyway, it is still far from us occupying Jiangdong. Chen Shi nodded and said, after all, the current Ganning navy is also the water thief whitewashing. Hey, there are problems with the ships, the crew, and the navy. Zhuge Liang sighed, I feel that reality and imagination are always a little different, and suddenly I found that you have a lot of things you haven't done. We have to write a plan again, first consolidate Qingju, Zhuzhou, we are basically ready for the northern expedition, and I hope that there will be no natural disasters when we turn back. Chen Shi sighed and said, I don't know how far Zijing has completed the Qingju Academy plan, there are a lot of things to go back. I always feel that you have a sense of doing a great cause for 100 generations. Zhuge Liang said with a wry smile. If you can do the great cause of 100 generations in a lifetime, why don't you do it, anyway, it won't hurt the people and money, when we occupy Jizhou, I will let you see what the great cause of 100 generations is. A smug smile appeared on Chen Shi's face. To turn the land of barbarians into the granary of the world, the canal is indispensable, and to block the possible division of the north, south, east, and west, the canal is also indispensable. 100 generations of great causes? Zhuge Liang felt that his eyelids were jumping, and Chen Shi dared to say that it was Bai Dai, so it was not a joke. Well, but it's very troublesome, it is estimated that it will take 10 to 20 years for the world to be peaceful, so take your time. Chen Shi sighed and said, of course, if it is a family in the world, if all the merchants help, it can barely be done, and it is estimated that it is enough for all the 5 wealthy merchants to fill in, and I always feel that they are so rich. After listening to what Chen Shi said, Zhuge Liang felt cold, and his whole body was cold, and it was estimated that Chen Shi would do such a big thing, and others would not think about it at all. You won't be playing for real. Zhuge Liang's eyelids jumped wildly, anyway, he didn't see a trace of joke on Chen Shi's face, it is estimated that he really had the idea of doing that, all the 5 wealthy merchants were killed to be able to be 10%. What kind of project are you going to do so crazy? It is definitely not a waste of money for the people. I have made this plan a long time ago, and there are even crazier plans later, this is just a pre-plan, but it has not been put on the agenda yet, just to tell you, so that you don't stare at the present, there will be more things in the future, although it is difficult to fight the country, but it is even more difficult to build this country. Chen Shi said indifferently that there are many refugees in troubled times, and there are also millions of refugees. Zhuge Liang suddenly felt that the distance between him and Chen Shi was very far, and the other party's governance was really very demonic. There are many benefits. After thinking about it, Zhuge Liang still asked. Chapter 480 Everyone has their own ambitions. Great cause for hundreds of generations. Even after the whole plan was completed by Zijing, I would package and sell it to the 5 wealthy merchants and lease it to them for 50 years, and they would even raise money to start construction themselves. Chen Shi said solemnly, the economic and political value contained in it is very large, so it cannot be given to them. A project of more than 100 billion yuan, the Great Wall of the Qin Emperor does not have this number. Zhuge Liang smiled bitterly and said, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Because I think no one in this world will be better than my plan, and no one can see further than me. Chen Shi stretched out his hand on Zhuge Liang's shoulder, looked at the river from a distance and said with a hint of confidence, what's more, I won't lose, history will witness all this. Whatever you want, if one day you are ready to propose this plan, remember to notify me and let me see the feasibility of your plan. Zhuge Liang looked at the confident Chen Shi for a long time and then spoke. The feasibility is 100, but it is just a matter of time and manpower, and I don't know if Zijing has solved it. Chen Shi yawned and said, I suddenly found that Zijing is quite miserable, he seems to have a lot of things to deal with, no wonder he basically left the State Council, worked diligently every day, and the prosperity under his rule, in addition to your plan, it is estimated that it is more Zijing's efforts. Zhuge Liang said with a wry smile,
No wonder he didn't see Lu Su every time, except for shivering from the cold. He was working diligently there at other times. Mount Tai, Fengao Government Affairs Department. Lu Su greeted Sun Qian and asked him to recruit a group of people to build infrastructure again during his leisure time. Zijing, do we have so much infrastructure to do? I think our Mount Tai has been very prosperous. After taking the order, Sun Qian asked puzzledly. He now even repairs the road in all directions. The road has been repaired to build water conservancy, excavate rivers, and strengthen embankments. Find a few people to study the Jianghuai River and Jisi waterways for me, and then let people study the Surabaya, Baihe, and other Zhuzhou waterways. Lu Su said without raising his head, if he couldn't do the Grand Canal, he would do something else, and first carry out the construction of branches. Speaking of which, Lu Su is the only civil servant who knows what Chen Shi wants to do to build water conservancy, and others don't even know that Chen Shi wants to build water conservancy. When this construction plan with a cost of more than 100 billion yuan was placed in front of Lu Su was so frightened that half of the tea he was drinking was spilled on it, and the preserved fruit he was eating was directly dropped on the table. Immediately slapped the table and vetoed it directly. However, as Chen Shi put out the entire construction, Lu Su also began to think about the feasibility of this construction in resistance, and finally came to the conclusion that this construction was very necessary, connecting the east, west, north, and south. From Chang and Luoyang in the west, Jizhou in the north, and Jianye in the south, after completion, the world was almost connected except for Shu. It is difficult to divide. It is also difficult to divide the north and south. There are many benefits, but the cost is also great. With Lu Su's eyes, you can naturally see the benefits, coupled with Chen Shi's soft grinding and hard bubbles. Lu Su finally accepted this task when Chen Shi made a wish not to mess around. Hey! Sun Gan nodded. This year's drought should indeed have carried out water conservancy construction, so he took the order without thinking too much. Take your time. Sichuan's task is estimated to be impossible to complete in less than 20 years. This guy is always doing long-term plans, and short-term plans are going crazy. I need to find someone to help me. Although Wang Xiu is an official, he can't get in touch with this plan. Li Wenru can do it, but he died in Zhuzhou. I need to arrest people to deal with government affairs. Lu Su was slightly crazy and thought that Chen Shi asked him to make a short-term plan, but the short-term plan contained in a long-term plan of 20 years is enough to make people crazy to think about. Recruit Li Wenru back, recall him, and let Chen Yuanlong temporarily act as the governor of Zhuzhou. While dealing with the decree on taxation, Lu Su thought that he had now reached a certain level of distraction. Although Chen Shi also guessed that Lu Su might be busy now, he didn't think that Lu Su was already busy in circles now. After all the high-level officials who originally gave Lu Su as a coordinator in Taishan Fengao went out, and there was only one Lu Su left in the entire Taishan government. The account books left by Liu Yi need to be done by Lu Su, the plans left by Chen Shi need to be completed by Lu Su, the government affairs reported by various states and counties need to be reviewed by Lu Su, the military logistics itself is managed by him, and the idle work in lieu of relief has started again, and the water conservancy network needs to be built after he sends people to explore the field, and the entire government affairs of the two states are basically pressed on Lu Su, a senior civil official. Although small things can be left to the lower levels to decide on their own, when everyone's things are all on Lu Su's head, Lu Su also has an idea of not doing it. If he hadn't been extremely responsible, it is estimated that he would have left the mess and killed Qingju in a rage. I don't know why I suddenly felt a little bad when I mentioned Zijing. Chen Shi said unconsciously. I feel that way too. Zhuge Liang glanced at Chen Shi, nodded and said, I plan to go back and have a good study. You should follow Zijing for internal affairs training when you go back. You have learned enough, and you are almost ready for actual combat. Chen Shi patted Zhuge Liang and said, how can you say that there are not many people who can use it to death now? And one more underage Zhuge Liang is also a huge help. Okay. Zhuge Liang glanced at Chen Shi and nodded. After the cold fog on the other side was dispelled, Tai Shutzi took Guan Hai and quickly jumped to Gan Ning's ship, and after the two sides met, he immediately began to convey orders to Gan Yi in the rear, preparing to march in pursuit. Of course, Gan Ning saw the group of Sun Ce troops who ran faster than rabbits and knew that he couldn't catch up at all. He just understood the gap between his navy and Sun Ce's navy, and knew that it would be difficult to go after the Jiangxia navy arrived. Didn't take Sun Ce? Gan Ning looked at Tai Shutzi, who was slightly embarrassed, and said, I feel like he shouldn't be that powerful. I can't kill it. Tai Shutzi shook his head and said, his strength is no longer weaker than mine, and I am afraid he will be stronger next time we encounter him. Gan Ning frowned, glanced at the thumb of Tai Shutzi's right hand and couldn't help but sigh. I can't kill it, I can't help it, I can't kill Juyu. They seem to have just come to test it from the beginning, and they seem to be ready to leave long ago. Dude, you're fine. It's okay. Guan Hai said concisely. I'll go to the cabin first. You keep talking. Don't look for me if you have nothing to do. Tai Shitsi looked at Guan Hai puzzled. What's going on with this guy? You don't have to worry about that guy. Everyone has their own ambitions, and his recent ambition is to lie down in the cabin and sleep. Gan Ning also saw Tai Shitsi's expression and explained with a reason.